Chapter 1120. The 11th Waterway, the 6th Pass, the Mysterious Lion Pass. Between the water and the sky, an impregnable pass could be seen in the distance, towering like a lion drinking water with its head lowered. The top and bottom of Mysterious Lion Pass were densely packed with foreign race experts. As far as the eye could see, it was like a swarm of locusts, their numbers more than several million. On the battleship, all the eastern sky cultivators were brimming with energy. Ning Fan had already captured 6 immortal sovereigns of the foreign races in the past 2 battles, turning the 11th water path upside down. No one knew if there would be a large number of foreign race immortal emperors participating in the upcoming Battle of Xianxia Pass, so everyone was prepared to fight to the death. However, along with the unceasing approach of the battleship, more and more eastern sky cultivators' expressions relaxed, and they felt that it was inconceivable. Inside the profound Lion Pass, there was actually no immortal emperor keeping watch. As such, under the suppression of the 4 immortal emperor realm experts, the members of the foreign races in this area did not have the strength to resist at all. They were defeated with just a single strike and their blood flowed like a river. Mysterious Lion Pass, recovered in one battle. After that, it was the Yanbing Pass, Guxiang Pass, Tongyun Pass. All the passes were recovered one after another. Strangely, Ning Fan did not encounter any large-scale retaliation from the foreign races along the way. This feeling was exactly the same as when he had been waiting for the dark races to retaliate. It was as if he had punched nothing but air. In the blink of an eye, several months had passed. In the end, the last pass of the 11th waterway, the Lingyun Pass, was still breached by Ning Fan and his group. At this point, all the passes of the 11th waterway had been recovered. Every waterway had a main pass, which was the crux of the waterway's formation. The main pass's formation was the strongest among all the passes. The Lingyun Mountain Pass was the main pass of the 11th path. Capturing the main pass meant that their mission in the 11th path had come to a successful end. The only thing that he was concerned about was the fact that the foreign races had yet to show any signs of retaliation. This did not make sense. Ning Fan faintly felt that the fact that the foreign races did not come to seek revenge was just the calm before the storm. Thus, he did not dare to be careless and maintained the highest level of vigilance. However, Thunder Immortal True Monarch and the others were certain that the foreign races were afraid of Ning Fan. That was why they did not dare to seek revenge. A few days later, a transfer order was suddenly issued from Taiyuan Ferry, ordering Thunder Immortal True Monarch and the others to evacuate Lingyun Pass and support the other battlefronts. At this moment, Ning Fan was the only Immortal Emperor Realm expert left in the Soaring Cloud Pass. Ning Fan was not transferred away from this place. The order he received was to continue guarding Cloud Soaring Pass until all the other waterways were recovered. Only then would there be new arrangements. Among all the waterways in the eastern boundary river, the 11th road was the first waterway that had completed the restoration of the entire territory. It was not only because Ning Fan's group was strong, but also because there were not many passes in the 11th road. There were only 13 of them. The waterways that connected the west, north, and south heavens had more than 100 passes. Naturally, it would take a lot of time to recover them. As for the other backwater routes, most of them had only recovered less than half of their passes. Compared to the 11th route, their progress was extremely slow. Ning Fan stayed in the Lingyun Pass. The Cloud Soaring Pass array formation was extremely strong. Once it was completely rebuilt, even an immortal emperor would find it hard to break the array formation head-on. Under the automatic protection of the formation, Ning Fan's life as a guard became very relaxed. He didn't have to participate in the defense of the pass at all times. Occasionally, there would be some outsiders attacking, but they would be directly wiped out by the formation. In this way, Ning Fan would have a lot of time to deal with his personal affairs. After a few months of hard work, the wisp of Dragon Saint Ancestral Cloud was finally wiped out of the sage's will. Ning Fan began to try to refine that wisp of Dragon Saint Ancestral Cloud. As the ancestral cloud was refined bit by bit, Ning Fan's eternal true body underwent some changes. The surface of the golden flame armor and the giant shield had a few more auspicious cloud patterns, which greatly increased the defense of his true body. At the same time, the form of the protective golden light released by his eternal true body also changed. In the past, Ning Fan's protective golden light was just ordinary golden rays. Today, however, among the 10,000 rays of golden light, some of them began to turn into mist, forming the shape of clouds. When Ning Fan used the protective golden light again, a few golden auspicious clouds would appear indistinctly within the golden light, increasing the defense of the protective golden light by a lot. Just by refining a wisp of the sage's auspicious cloud, his defense had improved once again. This dragon saint ancestral cloud was indeed extraordinary. Unfortunately, there were no more of them. Otherwise, Ning Fan could have obtained more benefits. After refining the cloud, Ning Fan opened his incense flame world and took out the gold and silver of the heavenly Tao that his disciples had excavated during this period of time. After that, he secretly used the ancient country trading formation to purchase a few processed innate magic treasures from the heaven-reaching cult. Then, he refined them into divine liquid with his cauldron and consumed them. During the tens of years since the dark race returned, Ning Fan had purchased more than 100 processed innate magic treasures from the heaven-reaching cult to refine the divine liquid. The reason why he did not purchase perfect-grade magic treasures was because they were too expensive. They were more than 10 times more expensive than processed magic treasures. It was not worth it to use them for incineration. The quality of the divine liquid refined from perfect-grade magic treasures was not much different from processed magic treasures. The grade of the magic treasure was the most important factor in the refinement of magic treasures. It was not important if the magic treasure had flaws or not. In that case, Ning Fan certainly would not spend too much money in vain. Even though the heaven-reaching cult had countless treasures, processed magic treasures only made up a small part of them. It was impossible for them to have too many of them. Moreover, not all of the processed magic treasures were cheap. Ning Fan would only buy the cheapest ones. Every time he activated the ancient country trading formation, he would buy all the innate magic treasures that did not cost more than 10 gold ingots. He would not buy anything that was more expensive. Even though he had 8 heavenly Tao mineral veins with him, his mining speed had already reached the limit of the mineral veins. He could not go any faster. The amount of heavenly Tao gold and silver in his hands was limited. He could not afford to spend them recklessly. He must use them wisely. As the days passed, the other waterways were recovered one after another. The morale of the people in the Lingyun mountain pass was getting higher day by day. After Ning Fan had used up most of the heavenly Tao gold and silver in his hands, he no longer used them to refine magic treasures. Instead, he entered the Profoundine world and started to save Phoenix Emperor Chongming's daughter, concubine Phoenix, 7 Leaves Lan. Promises must be fulfilled eventually. Every time he uses the treasure-searching compass, he would remember the promise he made to Phoenix Emperor Chongming. He did not want to delay this matter any longer. However, he did not know how long it would take to save her. With that in mind, Ning Fan gave an order in advance. Unless the Lingyun mountain pass encounters a powerful enemy that the formation could not eliminate, do not inform him to go out to battle, in a certain lady's chamber in the Profoundine Eastern world. Ning Fan called all 7 of the Tianlan Phoenix maidens over and told them about the treatment. These 7 maidens were naturally the products of the 7 parts of 7 Leaves Lan's demon soul and demon body. When they heard that Ning Fan was finally going to save them, the 7 of them were naturally overjoyed. However, when they thought about the difficulty of the fusion of their demon souls, they felt a little uneasy and worried. The 7 maidens had been imprisoned by Ning Fan for too long. The arrogance in their bones had long been worn away by time. When they saw Ning Fan again, the 7 maidens were very cautious. They did not dare to speak loudly. "Don't be afraid. Since I have made a promise with your father, I will not hurt you no matter what. You don't have to be so cautious in front of me, Ning Fan said with a smile. His eyes, however, drifted away slightly. He recalled Phoenix Emperor Chongming, who was overcautious and indecisive at the bank of the border river in the past. That clumsy father who wanted to see his daughter but did not dare to do so. How is he now? Can you really save me? The 7 maidens asked with uncertainty. Yes, I can. However, it will take some time. Your soul is divided into 7 parts and each of them is in one body. Your demon body is also divided into 7 parts. If you want to fuse them together again, you first need to break them apart and rebuild them. Then, you will need to shatter the 7 parts of your soul and body respectively. After that, you will be able to recover your soul. Shattering the demon soul and demon body is extremely risky. I can't afford any mistakes. In the next few months, I will only do one thing, and that is to observe your demon soul and body to familiarize myself with the structure of every inch of your soul and body. This process might offend you. I hope you will cooperate with me. Brother Ning, don't worry. I know what's important. As long as it's beneficial to the recovery of my soul, I will cooperate with you. The 7 maidens answered straightforwardly. However, as soon as Ning Fan began his research, the 7 maidens regretted it. However, the arrow was already on the bowstring and they had no choice but to release it. Take off your clothes. Be Brother Ning, aren't you studying my demon soul and demon body? Why do you want to take off my clothes? The 7 maidens were extremely embarrassed. They blamed Ning Fan for being too frivolous and wanted to take advantage of them. Ever since they regained their freedom, the 7 maidens lived together with Ning Fan's human cauldrons in the profound eastern world. It was also at this moment that the 7 maidens realized just how vast Ning Fan's harem was. In the profound eastern world, the number of maidens who had impure relationships with Ning Fan actually had to be counted in the tens of thousands. This man is just too scary. This man is just like a hungry lecher that only appears once in a million years. The 7 maidens recalled the scene where Ning Fan saw their naked bodies when they were just captured by him in the past. Then, they recalled that Ning Fan had once said that he wanted to keep them as human cauldrons. To me, plucking the 7 void abandoning human cauldrons is naturally not as beneficial as plucking the eternal cauldron. Therefore, I will find a way to merge your demon souls again. When that time comes, I will pluck all of you. Those were the words that Ning Fan had said in the past. The moment he opened his mouth, he would pluck them, even though this man kept saying that he would not hurt them because of the promise. What if he goes back on his words? What if he suddenly becomes lustful? I might be able to resist him. Don't let your imagination run wild. I can see everything that is going on in your mind. The thing that you are worried about will not happen. Ning Fan was speechless and said in a deep voice. The 7 maidens' faces turned even redder as their thoughts were seen through. They no longer dared to let their imagination run wild. They could only listen to Ning Fan's instructions and take off their clothes one by one. Their fair and smooth skin was exposed to the air without any reservation. You, come here. Don't hug your chest. Every inch of your skin must be exposed. You, why are you closing your legs so tightly? This place is indeed embarrassing, but it must be exposed. You. Empty your mind and don't let your imagination run wild. Once your mind is in a mess, the soul power fluctuation of your demon soul will also be chaotic. It will be difficult for me to remember the value of your soul power wave. And you. Don't call me shameless in your heart. If you don't want to be saved, just continue to cover your body. I am not really willing to save you. Facing the 7 maidens' beautiful bodies, Ning Fan would not have any evil thoughts. The more profound his bewitching technique was, the stronger his self-control would be. However, he would still feel a little awkward. The demon souls and physical bodies of the 7 maidens had been separated for a long time. It was extremely difficult and risky to reunite them. Ning Fan must understand every trace of their soul power and the structure of every inch of their physical bodies. Otherwise, it would be almost impossible for him to succeed. He had to carefully study the bodies of the 7 ladies, every organ, every inch of skin, every pore. He had to remember the soul power fluctuations of the 7 ladies, the blood flow rate, the number of cells. He had to thoroughly study the 7 ladies from the inside out. This process could only be described as shameful. It was not an easy task to study the human body at such a microscopic level. It was extremely exhausting. Fortunately, Ning Fan had the spirit-recovering rice. If his mind becomes exhausted, he could replenish it any time. 1 day passed. 2 days passed. A few days passed in a row. The 7 maidens gradually realized that when Ning Fan was studying their bodies, his expression was always calm. He really did not have the slightest desire. They finally believed that Ning Fan did not intentionally tease them when he asked them to pose in various embarrassing positions and expose their embarrassing parts. However, they still felt ashamed in the end. The feeling of spreading their legs and standing erect so that a man could carefully study their private parts was simply indescribable with words. Even though cultivators did not pay much attention to their purity, this was no longer a matter of purity. It felt like they had lost their dignity as members of the Phoenix clan. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. The 7 maidens began to get used to Ning Fan's research. Every inch of their skin had been deeply engraved in Ning Fan's mind. He had already seen them to the point where he could no longer look at them. Getting used to it was a very scary thing. At this moment, when the 7 maidens were ordered by Ning Fan to pose in various embarrassing positions and expose their embarrassing parts, they no longer felt so conflicted because they had already gotten used to it. The 7 maidens thought that they would never show their shyness in front of Ning Fan again after they had gotten used to this level of shameful play. However, they were wrong. They were ridiculously wrong. In the first half a month, Ning Fan only looked at them. After that, he began to touch them with his hands. He pinched here, pinched there, poked there, and pulled them apart to take a look. The most shameful thing was that as normal women, how could they not have any physiological reaction when they were being manipulated by men in such a shameful way? Every time this happened, the 7 maidens wished that they could die immediately. The spring water is blue in the sky, the painted boat listens to the rain and sleeps. Pooh! Pooh! What kind of twisted poem is this? Ning Fan felt that he had reached a new level of invincibility. He was about to have facial paralysis. Inwardly, he was incomparably embarrassed. However, there was no expression on his face at all. He felt that he had never studied the structure of a woman so thoroughly in his entire life. He had seen through every single cell of them, his eyes were covered in green light. With his heavenly sight, he memorized the souls and bodies of the 7 maidens under extremely microscopic conditions. 1 month passed. 2 months passed. In Ning Fan's eyes, the bodies of the 7 maidens were no longer beautiful. The countless cells that made up their bodies were just like countless planets. If the pattern was formed, the human body would be the starry sky. What femme fatale, what beautiful jade-like beauties, and what beautiful skeletons. All of them could no longer be seen. At this moment, Ning Fan was already 90% confident about the recovery of the 7 maiden souls. As for the remaining 10%, he could only do his best and leave it to the heavens. In the past 2.5 months, the 7 maidens had been looked at and touched by Ning Fan. How could they not feel any emotions in their hearts? That kind of emotion might not necessarily be feelings. Instead, it was a kind of habit. It was a kind of passive endurance and desire that was transformed from shame. However, when Ning Fan suddenly stopped all of his research, the 7 maidens felt a sense of emptiness instead. It was as if they were reluctant to part from Ning Fan's touch. They could not forget the feeling of floating in the air from time to time. It was as if they had become addicted to it. Phoenix Emperor Chongming is an expert in divination. I wonder if he had foreseen that his daughters would be studied by me like this. However, the process of research is indispensable. Even though I have a clear conscience, I have still been disrespectful to him in this matter. Ning Fan began to truly restore the souls of the 7 maidens. He skillfully smashed the demon souls and demon bodies of the 7 women into pieces. The bodies of the 7 maidens exploded. However, they did not explode into a mist of blood. Instead, they turned into countless specks of starlight. It was indescribably mysterious. Ning Fan was originally unable to destroy a human body into specks of starlight. However, after studying the 7 Phoenix Maidens this time, he actually managed to do it. The human body was the starry sky. Every cell and every undetectable molecule and atom were planets orbiting in the starry sky. In Ning Fan's eyes, the 7 maidens' bodies had become 7 broken parts of the starry sky. He must reassemble the 7 parts of the starry sky into one and reassemble them. This process did not allow the planets and patterns in the starry sky to be damaged. Moreover, it required him to repair every single cell accurately. The difficulty was simply unimaginable. Rearrange, reassemble. Another month passed. Ning Fan finally merged the vast starry sky into one. An elegant and refined naked lady walked out from the starlight. After she put on her clothes, she lowered her head at Ning Fan with a blushing face and said softly, "Thank you." Her tone was filled with joy. After all, it had been her dream for many years to merge her 7 souls into one. She had never thought that there would really be a day when her 7 souls would merge into one. In the past, her father told her that he had already deduced the location of her savior. However, she did not believe him. In the past, when Ning Fan captured her, he claimed that he could help her restore her soul. She did not believe him either. However, at this moment, she had no choice but to believe in Ning Fan's extraordinary talent. He could actually do something that even her father and many demon emperors in the heavenly demon world could not do. Even though this man is a pervert, he is really capable. You don't have to thank me. I saved you just to fulfill my promise to Senior Phoenix Sovereign. Moreover, I have offended you during the treatment process. I hope you can forgive me. Brother Ning also had no other choice. That's why he did it. I have already forgotten about this matter. I hope Brother Ning will not mention it again. 7 Leaves Land's face was so red that it could drip blood. She did not want Ning Fan to mention the shameful treatment process again. She did not want to recall the embarrassing scenes of her being caressed by Ning Fan again and again. No matter how thick-skinned Ning Fan was, he could not hide his embarrassment. 7 Leaves Lawn wished that she could dig a hole in the ground and hide inside it. Have a good rest, miss. Here are some pills. They might be helpful for you to recover your strength. Since I have something to do, I won't stay any longer. If I have the chance in the future, I will certainly fulfill my promise and send you back to the Phoenix clan. Ning Fan took out some pills and gave them to 7 Leaves Lawn. He could not hide the exhaustion on his face. The treatment process that had lasted for several months could be said to be mentally and physically exhausted. Even if he had eaten the spirit recovering rice, he still needed a good rest. Even though 7 Leaves Land's 7 souls had merged into one, it would still take some time for her to recover to her peak. Ning Fan's pills were like timely help. After receiving the pill bottle from Ning Fan, 7 Leaves Land's face became even redder. Her finger accidentally touched Ning Fan's finger. It was just an extremely normal physical contact, and a large number of embarrassing and indescribable scenes of research suddenly appeared in her mind. It's this pair of hands. He pulled her apart time and time again. He caused her sensitive body to break the dam time and time again. As she was distracted, she actually forgot to thank Ning Fan for giving her the pills. When she regained her senses, she realized that Ning Fan was already outside the house. She quickly called out to him. "What's the matter?" Ning Fan asked in surprise. "Thank you. It's just some pills. You don't have to take it to heart, Mississippi, Brother Ning. You are actually a good person." That year, I attacked you in the Yellow River Maze. Please forgive me. I have already forgotten about the grudges in the past. Ning Fan's expression remained the same, but he was rather speechless inwardly. Why was he given a good person card out of nowhere? Then, he thought of something and reminded Seven Leaves Lawn. Fortunately, you stopped me. I forgot to remind you. Even though your 7 souls have merged into one, it will still take some time for your demon souls to truly adapt to the unification. During this period of time, if your 7 souls reject each other and your soul power goes out of control, just burn some incense and pray in this profound world. I will sense it and come over to treat you. Huh. There's still a follow-up treatment. Seven Leaves Land's face was filled with embarrassment. Could it be that I still have to be manipulated by Ning Fan in the future? Why is it like this? The corner of Ning Fan's mouth twitched. He saw through Seven Leaves Land's reluctance. Does she think that I am very willing to put in so much effort to treat her? Does it cost me nothing to consume my mental energy like water? My spirit recovering rice will decrease every time I use it. Seeing Ning Fan's displeasure, Seven Leaves Lawn was a little afraid. She gritted her teeth and quickly tried to salvage the situation. Brother Ning, don't misunderstand me. I don't mean anything else. If Brother Ning still wants to treat me, I can endure it. Endure what? Endure being violated? As expected, you still treat me as a thief. Forget it. I won't explain anymore. Ning Fan endured his speechlessness and comforted Seven Leaves Lawn a few more times. Then, he left, leaving Seven Leaves Lawn alone on the same spot. She wanted to cry but had no tears. She secretly prayed that her soul power would not go out of control. Otherwise, she would continue to be ravaged by Ning Fan. After saving Seven Leaves Lawn, Ning Fan had one less burden in his heart. He instantly felt much more relaxed. When he recalled the mysterious process of breaking Seven Leaves Land's physical body into a starry sky, he felt that he had benefited a lot from saving her this time. He actually had a higher level of understanding towards the Tao of the human body. After returning to the Lingyun Pass, what awaited Ning Fan was the peaceful life of guarding the pass as usual. However, this time, the peace did not last for too long. The Primal Core Great Sovereign, who was the main commander, suddenly led his disciples and crossed the Taiyuan Pass. The purpose of this trip was none other than to reward Ning Fan based on his contributions. In order to commend fellow Daoist Ning for your contribution in capturing 6 emperors, the Alliance Master has specially entrusted me to bring these rewards to the Lingyun Pass. All the other fellow Daoists have their own missions to complete. Only I am still free. I was thinking that I can take this opportunity to get closer to fellow Daoist Ning. Thus, I simply accepted this mission and specially came to this place. The rewards were some refinement materials for innate magic treasures. They were considered precious to ordinary immortal emperors. However, to Ning Fan, they did not mean much. The Primal Core Great Sovereign stated his purpose of coming and talked cheerfully with Ning Fan. From time to time, he would reveal his intention to befriend Ning Fan. On the surface, Ning Fan was chatting with the Primal Core Great Sovereign. However, deep down, he was secretly vigilant of the Primal Core Great Sovereign's intention of coming. He knew it very well. This Primal Core Great Sovereign had long coveted his yin-yang locket. Back then, when Sen Luo was wreaking havoc in the eastern heavens, this person had even asked Sen Luo for this item. As for this smiling tiger who secretly coveted the yin-yang locket, Ning Fan certainly would not sincerely befriend him. He was just feigning civility. After secretly activating his divine spirit talent that allowed him to communicate with all living things, he heard the following words: the Primal Core Great Sovereign's clothes. Kill Ning Fan. Kill Ning Fan. Kill Ning Fan. The Primal Core Great Sovereign's storage pouch. Kill Ning Fan. Kill Ning Fan. Kill Ning Fan. The Primal Core Great Sovereign's shoes. Kill Ning Fan. Kill Ning Fan. Kill Ning Fan. Ning Fan was speechless. Just how much does this primal core great sovereign want me to die? Even his clothes and shoes were tainted with killing intent. It was obvious that this person had been venting his killing intent to me behind my back. Unfortunately, no matter how hard the primal core great sovereign tried to conceal his killing intent, he could not hide it from the universal communication. This person has killing intent towards me. He doesn't have the slightest intention of befriending me. He obviously didn't come all the way to the Lingyun Pass and accepted this difficult task just to befriend me. I'm afraid he has other intentions. I have to be careful. The primal core great sovereign thought that he had concealed his killing intent very well. However, he did not expect that Ning Fan had already seen through everything. Thinking back to the fact that the foreign races had yet to take revenge on him and this primal core great sovereign had coincidentally come all of a sudden with hidden killing intent, Ning Fan's eyes flashed. He seemed to have guessed, if this person really has ulterior motives, he probably won't leave immediately after giving me the reward. Sure enough, after the primal core great sovereign handed Ning Fan the reward, he did not leave immediately. Coincidentally, his battle arc was malfunctioning. It would need at least 10 days of maintenance before it could be used again. As such, the primal core great sovereign had no choice but to stay in the Lingyun Pass for a while and wait for his battle arc to be repaired. What was even more coincidental was that on the 6th day of the primal core great sovereign's stay in the Lingyun Pass, a large number of auspicious signs suddenly appeared 3,000 li away from the Lingyun Pass. It was the sign of the emergence of a unique treasure. I didn't expect that there would be a treasure appearing not far from the Lingyun Pass. Looking at the scale of the auspicious signs, it seems to be an innate magic treasure. I want to go there and have a look. Unfortunately, my battle arc has yet to be repaired. I would like to borrow fellow Daoist's battle arc. I wonder. Ning Fan also seemed to be very interested in the emergence of the unique treasure. Not only did he agree to lend the primal core great sovereign his battle arc, he even requested to travel with the primal core great sovereign. The primal core great sovereign pretended to refuse, as if he was unwilling to travel with Ning Fan. He was afraid that Ning Fan would share his treasure with him. However, he still had a favor to ask from Ning Fan after all. In the end, the primal core great sovereign had no choice but to compromise with Ning Fan. He reluctantly made an agreement with Ning Fan. If the two of them really discover a treasure during this trip, they would have to collect it based on their own abilities. It was impossible for him to share the treasure equally with Ning Fan. When the battle arc carried the primal core great sovereign and Ning Fan out of the formation of the Lingyun Pass, the primal core great sovereign was overjoyed. This brat actually took the bait so easily. Sure enough, he is blinded by greed. Indulging in greed is the sea of bitterness. Burning with greed is the pit of fire. Let this old man teach you about this. As for the tuition fee. Hee. Of course, it's your life. Chapter 1121. At the moment when Ning Fan flew out of the Lingyun Pass, an illusory figure that looked exactly the same as the primordial pill sovereign seemed to have sensed something and smiled. Hee. According to the information that my true body sent, that kid Ning Fan has already stepped into the trap and is heading towards this place. The illusory figure was none other than the second primordial spirit of the primordial pill sovereign that he had cultivated for many years. However, it was unknown why it appeared in this remote water region. At this moment, there were hundreds and thousands of gigantic foreign beasts that were as large as mountains beside the second primordial spirit of the primordial pill sovereign. Thanks to fellow Daoist Yuan Dan's brilliant plan, we really managed to lure that immortal venerate Ning here. If we can really kill him this time, I will definitely report to the great divine priest and ask for your reward. Among these thousands of gigantic beasts, there were 16 immortal emperors of the foreign races. If it wasn't for them suppressing their auras, this place would definitely be filled with ferocious wolves. Among the 16 emperors, 10 of them were from the Dragon Horse clan while the rest were helpers invited by the Dragon Horse clan. Ning Fan would never expect that there would be 16 immortal emperors of the foreign races ambushing him here. After all, the war between the foreign races and the Eastern Heaven had not broken out yet. Immortal emperors of the foreign races could not leave the water on a large scale. However, in order to kill Ning Fan, the foreign emperors of the 10 paths could not care less and actually sent out such a large army. It was imaginable what kind of war would break out if Ning Fan came here. Moreover, this was because the seal that immortal sovereign Zi-Do placed in the boundary river had not been completely destroyed. The 11 paths could only send out these 16 immortal emperors at most, which was already the limit. If not, there might be more immortal emperors who would come here to assassinate Ning Fan. If you can kill that kid Ning Fan, you have to give me his yin-yang locket. Everyone, don't forget this promise. Sovereign Yuan Dan seemed to have thought of something and reminded them. Ha! Fellow Taoist Yuan Dan, don't worry. Most of us from the Water Clan cultivate our physical bodies and abilities. Magic treasures are just external objects and not the key. All the magic treasures on this kid will belong to you. However, his flesh and blood will belong to us. It's hard for us to get out of the water. Naturally, we need to have a good meal. The flesh of an ancient immortal venerate must be delicious. Thinking about the taste of human flesh, many of the foreign races drooled. It's a deal. It's a deal. The second primordial spirit of the primordial pill sovereign felt rather proud of itself. When he thought about how he could seize Ning Fan's yin-yang locket and obtain the key to the infinite wasteland gate of the extreme pill sacred region, he was extremely excited. This was a chance to leave the illusory world and step into the true world. How could he not be excited? The illusory world of dreams was barren of resources and spiritual energy, but he could still reach the eternal 7 calamities step by step. If he went to the true world, he was confident that he could reach the quasi-saint realm. He was even confident that he could try to become a saint. Compared to this, colluding with the outsiders wasn't something he felt the slightest bit ashamed of. If Fan could, then, Fan, Ning as, Fan Wuji, the emperor of the emperor. However, he was afraid that the great Emperor Ji Kai, who was good at calculating, would be able to find out the whole story. If that is the case, even if he kills Ning Fan, he would probably become the public enemy of the allied army of the Border River Alliance. No, there's no need to worry about this. This time, it's different from the last time when the 5 emperors of the Dragon Horse came out of the water. I heard that in order to conceal the heaven's secret, the great divine priest of the foreign races had specially given me the fate-severing sword. No matter how strong that old man Tian Saint Fan is, he certainly won't be able to tell the whole story. It's impossible for him to know that I have the intention to kill Ning Fan. When he thought of this, the sovereign Yuan Dan could not hide his joy. He burst into laughter. It was as if he could already see the fertile spiritual land of the true world waving at him. At first, the place where the auspicious sign appeared was only 3,000 li away from Lingyun Pass. With the speed of the battleship, which was comparable to the ancient cultivators, they arrived at this distance in an instant. Ning Fan looked at the center of the auspicious sign. Of course, he knew that the appearance of the so-called rare treasure was probably a scheme of the sovereign Yuan Dan. However, he still decided to beat him at his own game. As far as his eyes could see, the clouds reflected rays of light that were 10,000 zhang long. It was as if the Milky Way was falling from the sky. It was extremely beautiful. There was also a strange fragrance coming from the center of the auspicious sign, spreading across heaven and earth. It was like the smell of poppy flowers, but it was slightly different when one smelled it carefully. At the center of the light, a silver gourd could be vaguely seen. It was floating and sinking in the light. Ning Fan's eyes moved slightly. He did not expect that the rare treasure that appeared in this place would be a gourd. However, when he thought of something else, he felt that it was reasonable. The gourd was covered by the rays of light. Ning Fan could only see its general appearance. There was a pair of silver horns at the mouth of the gourd. Its appearance was a little more strange compared to ordinary gourds. What was even more strange was that there were mysterious runes drawn on the body of the gourd. Those runes gathered together like a smiling ghost face. Ning Fan could clearly feel the innate qi from this treasure. Without a doubt, this ghost-faced gourd was an innate magic treasure. However, it was just a low-grade innate magic treasure. So be it low-grade innate magic treasure. I don't think that the sovereign Yuan Dan realm old man can tempt me with a mid-grade innate magic treasure, right? He doesn't have that kind of good stuff. Ning Fan thought to himself. Ordinary low-grade innate magic treasures could only be used as materials for Ning Fan's incineration. They would not be able to attract his attention. However, if it was a gourd-type magic treasure, it would be an exception. The news of Ning Fan collecting gourd magical treasures both in the open and in the dark had already spread across the eastern heaven. Everyone knew that Ning Fan was extremely passionate about them. It was exactly because of Ning Fan's preference that Sovereign Yuan Dan purposely chose to use this gourd with a ghost face to entice Ning Fan. The battleship tried to approach the ghost-faced gourd at the center of the auspicious sign, but the gourd suddenly released thousands of rays of gentle light, forcing the battleship to be unable to get any closer. Emperor Yuan Dan pretended to be surprised. What a powerful connate gourd. You should know that this battleship is a special item of the Taurus Palace. Ordinary connate Dharma treasures won't be able to stop this battleship from moving. While speaking, Sovereign Primordial Pill was secretly observing Ning Fan's expression. When he saw that Ning Fan seemed to be more interested in the gourd, he could not help but feel proud of himself. It seemed like he had placed the right bait. It was not in vain that he had shamelessly asked the great divine priest of the foreign races for this item. Ning Fan looked at the ghost-faced gourd with great interest. His interest was not entirely fake. He smiled and said, "This gourd seems to have some tricks up its sleeves. You and I didn't come here to collect them in vain." However, he did not know if this gourd was the divine tool he was looking for, the Qi and Blood gourd. It was difficult for Ning Fan to use the divine spirit bloodline in his body to accurately sense whether this treasure was a divine tool or not. He could only confirm it by snatching the gourd. He did not think that there would be so many coincidences in this world that he would encounter the Qi and Blood gourd of his dreams the moment he stepped out of his house. Of course, this possibility could not be completely ruled out. Ning Fan was about to use his divine ability to disperse the divine light in the sky and collect this ghost-faced gourd. However, the gourd suddenly released a sky full of silver flames, and with the help of the silver flames, it disappeared without a trace, escaping without a trace. Humph! How dare a mere spirit gourd try to escape? Fellow Taoist Ning, quickly use the battleship to chase after it. Don't let this treasure escape. Sovereign Yuan Dan urged. This. Ning Fan purposely dawdled and pretended to be hesitant. Why didn't fellow Taoist chase after it? Sigh, it's not like fellow Taoist Yuan Dan doesn't know about the dangers of the Realm River. Moreover, I've killed a few immortal emperors of the foreign races. I've long been secretly regarded as a threat by them. I'm not afraid if I'm just collecting magic treasures near the Lingyun Pass. However, it would be inappropriate if I were to chase after this gourd and accidentally go deeper into the water. Once we're discovered by them, they will certainly send out a large number of experts to kill us and seek revenge. By then, we'll be alone outside without the impregnable pass to protect ourselves. The consequences will be unimaginable. Fellow Taoist, you're wrong. The foreign races have lost 6 emperors in a row. They've been afraid of you for a long time. The fact that they haven't come to seek revenge on you is proof of that. You and I can chase after that gourd without worrying. Even if there's an accident, there's no need to worry. Even if we can't defeat it, can't we escape? I admit that my strength is not as good as yours, but my means of escaping are not something you can imagine. Even though you don't have the confidence to protect yourself, I have the confidence to protect you. Moreover, every opportunity bestowed by the heavens is accompanied by risk. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. If you miss this opportunity in this spiritual gourd, you'll surely regret it in the future. Sovereign Primordial Pill advised Ning Fan earnestly. Ning Fan's expression changed slightly, as if he was persuaded by Sovereign Primordial Pill's words. After a moment of hesitation, he gritted his teeth and made up his mind. He steered the battle ark and chased after the direction where the gourd had escaped to. Unfortunately, the speed of the battle ark was similar to that of ordinary immortal venerables. It was not much faster than the speed of the escaping gourd. Therefore, even after several hours of chasing, the distance between them and the gourd still did not shorten by much. However, the distance between the battle ark and the Lingyun Pass was getting further and further. The gourd that was escaping in a panic had actually brought it all the way to the deepest part of the 11 water paths. It was a dead water area that had been abandoned for many years. Since ancient times, very few people would come to this place. Between the water and the sky, there was not a single trace of wind. Even though the battle ark was moving at full speed, it could not bring up any wind. The air was cold and damp. There was also a fishy smell that filled the air. The surface of the water was covered by decaying algae. Countless wreckages of ships were floating in the air. Occasionally, there would be one or two ancient ships that were preserved in good condition among the algae. They gave off a strong smell of decay. Those were the battle arks of ancient cultivators. No one knew how many years had passed since they were destroyed. Some of the ancient ships had stone statues standing on them. Ning Fan faintly felt that those stone statues were not carved by humans. Instead, they were the corpses of ancient cultivators that had been weathered into stone. The fearful expressions on their faces before they died were vivid and lifelike. It was rather horrifying. These strange stone statues had existed on the ghost ships since ancient times. They drifted with the waves and died with everlasting regrets. Occasionally, there would be the corpses of ancient sea beasts that were as huge as mountains floating in the water. Those giant corpses had also turned into rocks, but they did not sink into the water. The atmosphere in this place was already eerie and terrifying. As he moved forward, more insect eggs began to appear on the surface of the water. In the beginning, there were not many insect eggs on the surface of the water. However, as time went by, the surface of the river was almost completely filled with insect eggs. They were densely packed and there were more than millions of them. Ning Fan could not even count them all. There are actually so many insect eggs here. Could it be that this is also the lair of a foreign race? While Ning Fan was pondering, he suddenly saw the ghost-faced gourd that had been running away explode with a bang. It shattered into countless silver flames and disappeared from heaven and earth. It had completed its mission to lure Ning Fan. At the moment when the gourd disappeared, the primordial pill sovereign who had been smiling at Ning Fan all along finally revealed his fangs. His face was still full of smiles, but he was already secretly activating his killing technique. He raised his hand and shot out several rays of golden light at Ning Fan, who was just inches away from him. Those golden light rays were actually incomparably sharp golden needles. The brilliance they emitted dyed the entire sky golden. If he was an immortal emperor who was careless, he would most likely be ambushed by the primordial pill sovereign. However, Ning Fan had been vigilant against the primordial pill sovereign since the beginning. Thus, he naturally would not be hit by the golden light rays. Ning Fan's eyes revealed a look of disdain. The golden protective light around his body was suddenly activated. There were even some golden auspicious clouds that were faintly discernible within the protective golden light. The golden needles that were sneakily attacking him were all deflected away. At the same time, the cross-shaped halos were activated. The ink seal spread out to 1,000 zhang and engulfed the primordial pill sovereign like a ferocious beast. The primordial pill sovereign's expression changed greatly. How could he be willing to be trapped by the cross-shaped halos? He made a tearing motion with his large hand. The space around his body immediately became distorted. At the moment when the space was distorted, he directly tore heaven and earth apart. He flew thousands of zhang away from the battle arc and escaped from the range of the cross-shaped halos. The golden needles that failed to land a sneak attack were recalled by the primordial pill sovereign. They turned into rays of golden light and protected his body. His eyes were extremely cold. I have underestimated you. Since when did you start suspecting me? The primordial pill sovereign was not an idiot. The fact that Ning Fan managed to dodge his sneak attack at such a close distance was enough to prove that Ning Fan had long been on guard against him. Ning Fan had probably seen through his plan long ago. Suspecting? I have never trusted you. Why would I suspect you? Ning Fan said with a smile. In the primordial pill sovereign's eyes, that smile was indescribably glaring. It was as if the smile was mocking him for his inferior scheme. When he thought of that, the primordial pill sovereign was so angry that he laughed instead. Ha ha ha. What an arrogant brat. It turns out that you already knew that I had ulterior motives from the very beginning. However, you still walked right into my trap. How foolish and arrogant. Do you really think that I can't do anything to you even if you fall into my trap? It seems like capturing 6 immortal emperors of the foreign races in a row has made you quite arrogant. Do you know that I am not alone? I still have helpers here. If you cut the crap. Ask all of your helpers to come out now. Ning Fan did not want to waste his breath. He swung both of his fists to the left and right. His ancient devil essence chi swept across like a dragon, shattering heaven and earth. Hundreds and thousands of experts of the foreign races fell out of the crack between heaven and earth. All of their faces were filled with different degrees of surprise. They were hiding here with the secret technique of the Heavenly Shadow Clan. Even the Eastern Heaven Immortal Emperors of the 7th Tribulation and 8th Tribulation might not be able to sense where they were hiding. However, Ning Fan seemed to have seen through everything. I heard from fellow Taoist Primal Core Realm that this brat is a celestial being realm cultivator. It seems like it's true. The younger generation is really going to surpass us in time. Is there really such a fine jade among the ants of the Eastern Heaven? A gigantic beast that looked like a red carp said with a solemn expression. He was a 6th Tribulation Immortal Emperor of the Hungong Fish Clan. Ning Fan had killed many experts of this clan along the way. However, it was his first time encountering an immortal emperor. Humph. As expected of the person who captured the 6 princes of the Dragon Horse clan. You do have some capabilities. Unfortunately, you still have to die today. A huge white fish with wings said arrogantly. He was a 7th Tribulation Immortal Emperor of the Ying Fish clan. His cold chi was so strong that it could even freeze heaven and earth. You actually managed to break the divine concealment secret technique of my Heavenly Shadow Clan. I thought that the Dragon Horse clan was exaggerating about you. It seems like it's true. A gigantic beast that was formed from shadows clicked its tongue and praised Ning Fan. However, there was an indescribable killing intent in its voice. This person was a 7th Tribulation Immortal Emperor. So you're the one who captured 6 of my brothers. Roar. The other princes of the Dragon Horse clan also arrived at this place. As soon as they saw Ning Fan, all of them glared at him. Ning Fan's expression remained the same, but deep down, he was rather moved. He had only guessed that the Primordial Pill Emperor would join forces with the foreign races. He did not expect that he would be right. Ning Fan's eyes scanned across the area. There were actually a total of 16 immortal emperors of the foreign races waiting to ambush him. Including the Primordial Core Realm cultivators, there were 17 of them. Among them, there was no lack of 7th and 8th Tribulations Immortal Emperors. There were even 2 9th Tribulations Immortal Emperors. They stood silently behind the group of beasts, but they exuded an incomparably huge pressure that the other immortal emperors could not compare to. Of these two nine-tribulation immortal emperors, one was an immortal emperor of the Dragon Horse clan, and the other was a female emperor who had the upper body of a human and the lower body of a fish. She was extremely charming and looked a bit like the legendary mermaids. Below the celestial emperor, there were close to 100 celestial venerables and celestial kings. The rest of the beasts were at least at the thought fragmentation realm. With such a huge lineup, if any other Eastern Sky immortal emperor were to come here, they would most likely die 9 times out of 10. However, Ning Fan was different. He had even gone through the dark race alone. Why would he be afraid of the enemy's formation? Primordial Core Realm, judging from how these foreign races addressed you as fellow Daoist, I suppose you have already surrendered to the foreign races. Do you know what the punishment is for joining the Covenant of the Border River, betraying it and murdering your allies? Ning Fan's tone was as calm as still water. That calmness was a sign that he really did not take his enemies seriously. Sovereign Primordial Core Realm snorted coldly, avoiding Ning Fan's words of betrayal. He waved his hand and the countless giant beasts behind him immediately launched their attacks at Ning Fan. There were giant dragons breathing dragon breaths, giant tortoises spitting out icicles and giant snakes spitting out venom. Hundreds and thousands of attacks gathered together. Even a quasi-saint realm cultivator would not be able to take them head-on and could only retreat. Qi relying on his speed which far surpassed ordinary immortal emperors, Ning Fan flew several thousand zhang in a flash and flew away from the battle arc, avoiding the first round of attacks from the group of beasts. Even though he managed to avoid the attacks, the battle arc could not. It was directly crushed into ashes by the attacks of the beasts. Humph. Unfortunately, the battle arc did not manage to avoid them. Without the battle arc, you won't be able to return to the Ling Yun Pass alone with the strength of your spirit sense. On the surface of the water, there are many of us who want to take your life. Under the water, there are even more immortal Emperor Realm old monsters. Due to the immortal sovereign seal, they can't all come out at once. Don't even think about living. Sovereign Primordial Core Realm sneered. The second round of attacks came in the blink of an eye. Countless abilities locked onto Ning Fan as if they had eyes of their own. When the number of attacks increased, it was impossible for Ning Fan to avoid all of them no matter how fast he was. In the end, he was still hit by some of the attacks. Fortunately, the golden light protecting his body was extremely powerful. When he revealed his eternal true body, he did not feel any pain or itch even when the attacks of some immortal emperors landed on his body. This young man has such a powerful defense. Some of the foreign races who could speak were shocked by Ning Fan's heaven-defying defense. No wonder you could capture 6 princes of my race. You do have some capabilities. However, no matter how strong your defense is, you won't be able to block this sword. The Dragon Horse Crown Prince who had a 9 tribulations cultivation base suddenly revealed his eternal true body, turning into a giant with the face of a horse and the body of a human. The giant held a green light sword in his hand. The light sword was covered with great Tao patterns. The chi it gave off made Ning Fan shudder. It was actually a mid-grade innate magic treasure. Die. The Dragon Horse Crown Prince swung his sword. The entire world lost its brilliance and was replaced by the elegance of this sword. Countless giant beasts were frightened by the power of this sword. They hurriedly avoided it. While dodging, they shouted, "The power of the fate-severing sword is unstoppable and let's quickly avoid it." However, Ning Fan was locked on by the killing intent of this sword. There was no way for him to avoid it. He could only take it head-on. Ning Fan who had transformed into his true body held a giant shield in front of him. Under the interweaving cross-shaped halos, he clashed against the sword light of the Dragon Horse Crown Prince. That incomparably sharp sword light was forcefully dispersed by Ning Fan. Ning Fan, on the other hand, did not have a good time either. The power of that sword made his blood and chi churn. He was inwardly shocked by the power of this sword. It was indeed a mid-grade innate treasure sword. With just his eternal true body, he probably could not block more than a few sword attacks. You actually managed to block my fate-severing sword. The Dragon Horse Crown Prince's eyes were filled with astonishment. After the initial shock, his killing intent became even stronger. Another peerless sword dashed towards Ning Fan. This time, he was not the only one attacking Ning Fan. There were several other immortal emperors who transformed into their eternal true bodies and launched a pincer attack at Ning Fan. Ning Fan's mind was as calm as still water. It was the calmness that he had tempered after going through countless battles of life and death. Raising his hand, he took out the sun, moon, and stars steel and struck it at the Dragon Horse Crown Prince, blocking the attack of the innate middle-grade treasure sword. The remaining attacks of the immortal emperors of the foreign races were neutralized by Ning Fan's Devil Fist. The ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike was launched like a storm. The long-range attacks of the ordinary immortal emperors of the foreign races could not even get close to Ning Fan. This young man has actually become so strong. Seeing Ning Fan fight against the immortal emperors of the foreign races with ease, Sovereign Yuan Dan widened his eyes and could not hide his astonishment. He knew about Ning Fan's achievements in the Eastern Heaven. He had heard about Ning Fan capturing 6 Dragon Horse immortal emperors in a row. He had also heard that Ning Fan went to the dark races alone and retreated unscathed. He had some understanding of Ning Fan's techniques. However, those were just hearsay. At this moment, when Sovereign Yuan Dan was facing Ning Fan who had unleashed his eternal true body in his full strength, he could not help but shiver. How could a mere eternal immortal venerate be so strong? He could deal with the attacks of so many immortal emperors of the foreign races so calmly. I'm going to capture him. Seeing that the Dragon Horse Crown Prince was entangled by the attacks of the Sun Moon Star Steel and could no longer split himself to attack Ning Fan, the Nine Tribulations female empress who was half human and half fish finally could not hold back anymore and took action. Seeing her taking action, many of the foreign races began to cheer Afro. Afro. Afro seemed to be the name of this female empress in the foreign races. The female empress who was called Afro raised her hand and a golden bow appeared in her hand. She shot 3 arrows at Ning Fan continuously. 1 arrow to the top of the head. 1 arrow to the heart. 1 arrow to the dantian. The destructive power of the golden arrow seemed ordinary but it gave Ning Fan an indescribable sense of danger. Logically speaking, the sharpness of the golden arrow should not be able to penetrate his physical defense. However, Chi before the 3 arrows could reach his body, Ning Fan's eternal true body let out 3 sounds of blood being pierced. His head, chest and dantian were slightly injured. Ning Fan raised his hand and shattered the 3 golden arrows. However, there was still a strange flash of golden light on the 3 spots where the golden arrows were shot. Ning Fan's eyes immediately turned grim. These golden arrows were actually a type of karma magic treasure. Once the bow is drawn, there would be consequences of being hit by the arrows. It was not enough to just block the arrows. It was rather similar to the candle bow. In the past when his cultivation base was still low, he was injured by the candle bow in the ancient wild region. It was an attack that reversed karma. The difference was that this kind of attack was cast by a 9 Tribulation immortal emperor. Its destructive power was naturally far greater than the attack that Ning Fan suffered in the past. Oh. You actually only suffered light injuries after taking 3 arrows from me. The mermaid empress who was called Afro seemed to be a little surprised by Ning Fan's physical defense. One should know that even a 6 Tribulation immortal emperor would be severely injured after taking 3 arrows from her. She was an expert among the 9 Tribulation immortal emperors and she was not far away from advancing to the quasi-saint realm. It's just a small Tao of karma. Why would I be afraid? Green light shot out from Ning Fan's eyes. With a tug of his hand, he broke the karma that connected heaven and earth to the 3 golden arrows. Then, the 3 golden arrows exploded and vanished without a trace. As for the wounds that Ning Fan suffered from the 3 arrows, they were also healed in an instant under the heaven-defying healing power of the cross-shaped halo. Afro frowned. She raised her golden bow again, preparing to shoot at Ning Fan. How could Ning Fan be willing to be injured by the arrows again? Even though his physical body was strong and the previous injuries were nothing to him, what if Afro had more powerful golden arrows? Ning Fan did not want to take the risk. He turned his hand and shot a ray of multicolored light at Afro. It was not an ordinary multicolored light. It was the unique enchanting technique of the descendants of ancient chaos, chaotic world purple light. The multicolored light turned into a huge net and flew towards Ning Fan. Afro's face was filled with disdain. She could feel that the power of Ning Fan's multicolored light net was very weak. It was probably not even as powerful as the attacks of some immortal venerables. If it was just this little bit of power, she would not need to block it at all. She would be unharmed just by relying on her mermaid body that she had cultivated for many years. Afro focused on aiming at Ning Fan. Just now, when Ning Fan made a tug with his hand, he had not only destroyed the karma of her 3 golden arrows but also many other karmic connections between heaven and earth. Those karmic connections that were destroyed were the Tao of arrows that she could use. Luckily, Ning Fan did not destroy all of them. Thus, her arrows could still hurt Ning Fan. Afro, who was focused on aiming at Ning Fan, did not have the leisure to block his multicolored light attack. Thus, she met with a tragedy. The power of the chaotic world purple light might seem insignificant. However, if it hit someone's body. With Ning Fan's current cultivation base that had fully activated his eternal true body, almost no woman below the quasi-saint realm could resist his enchanting technique. As soon as the chaotic world purple light approached her, Afro felt that something was amiss. It was already too late for her to stop the attack. An incomparably large net of multicolored light enveloped her tightly, sealing all of her magic power and abilities. Traces of the enchanting technique penetrated Afro's body, causing her fair skin that was different from humans to be coated with a layer of alluring pink. It was the proof that her lust had been triggered by the enchanting technique. Why, you're despicable. How dare you use an enchanting technique on me? Let me go. Quickly, let me go. Afro tried her best not to let out a moan. Her beautiful eyes were filled with anger. She wished she could glare at Ning Fan to death. Enchanting technique? What a small trick. Since ancient times, how many immortal emperors would use enchanting techniques during fights? It was not that they did not want to use it. It was just that the destructive power of enchanting techniques was usually very low. Using it would be useless. Thus, it was better to save some magic power and not use it. Because of this, Afro did not expect that Ning Fan would use his enchanting technique on her as soon as they met. Not only did she not expect it, but she also did not notice it at all. If she knew that the multicolored light was an enchanting technique, no matter how inconspicuous it was, she would more or less resist it to prevent her mind from being shaken by the enchanting technique and causing her arrow to miss its target. Ning Fan could only blame himself for merging the enchanting techniques of the 2 great enchanting masters, Great Emperor Ancient Chaos and Shi Zihua, into one. Currently, his enchanting technique was almost invisible. Unless it was a great enchanting master at the same level as him, no one would be able to tell that the chaotic world purple light that Ning Fan used was a type of enchanting technique. Ning Fan was also stunned. There were very few female emperors that he had fought with his full strength. Even though he would occasionally spar with Zhang Yu and the immortal Loli, they were just sparring with each other. He had never used his full strength like what he was doing now. Naturally, he had never used his enchanting technique to its fullest. Originally, he only planned to use the chaotic world purple light to mess up Afro's mind and make her arrows lose their accuracy. However, he did not expect that the effect of the chaotic world purple light was so great that it directly trapped Afro, preventing her from escaping. This was an unexpected gain. Ning Fan was not the only one who was stunned. All the experts of the foreign races at the scene were stunned. Their goddess Afro, who was known for her beauty, was actually subdued by Ning Fan in just a single move. How could this be possible? Enchanting technique? That's what the noble Lord Afro said. Could it be that there's actually such a terrifying enchanting technique in this world that can subdue a 9 tribulation immortal emperor with just a single move? It's impossible. However, the truth was right in front of their eyes. Quick! Save Lord Afro! Some experts of the foreign races reacted and tried to save Afro from the net. Unfortunately, it was already too late. Ning Fan made a pulling motion with his large hand and pulled Afro into his palm along with the net. Why was she in his palm? Of course, it was because Ning Fan was currently maintaining his eternal ancient true body while Afro was just an ordinary size. Ning Fan grabbed Afro with his left hand and continuously channeled his enchanting technique into her body, causing her body to become weaker and weaker. In the end, she actually fainted from embarrassment and anger. With his right hand, he waved the ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike. With the endless magic power of the cross-shaped light ring, Ning Fan's fist force became stronger and stronger. Gradually, he managed to hit 3,000 consecutive strikes. The mountain-breaking attack of 3,000 ancient devils was extremely powerful. The giant bodies of 2 immortal emperors of foreign races were destroyed on the spot. Only their demon souls managed to escape. As for immortal venerables and immortal kings, Ning Fan had already killed more than 20 of them with his fists. He was too lazy to calculate the exact number. Since he was going all out, he did not put immortal venerables and immortal kings in his eyes at all. More and more experts of the foreign races showed fear on their faces. They looked at Ning Fan as if they were looking at a ghost. How could he not be afraid? Not long after this ambush began, Ning Fan had already destroyed the physical bodies of 2 immortal sovereigns and killed more than 20 immortal venerables and immortal kings. Besides that, he even captured Afro, who had a 9 tribulation cultivation base alive. That was the noble lady Aphrodite. This was not the dragon horse crown prince who had captured a 6th tribulation or 7th tribulation realm. Afluo was a powerful existence who had half a step into the quasi-sage realm. However, she was captured alive by Ning Fan in just a single exchange. How could it not be shocking? Impossible. How could he capture a 9 tribulations empress so easily? Even if he is the successor of Ancient Chaos, he shouldn't be able to do this. Ancient Chaos's bewitching technique is definitely not this powerful. This young man's bewitching technique has actually surpassed Ancient Chaos's. Sovereign Primordial Pill's entire body was drenched in cold sweat. An extremely bad feeling rose in his heart. Today's perfect ambush, how could it possibly fail? Something that made Sovereign Primordial Pill break out in cold sweat had yet to happen. In the midst of the bitter battle, Ning Fan found a gap and planted layers of restrictive spells on the unconscious Afluo. Then, he casually threw her into the profound Een world. Capturing Afluo was just a beautiful accident. It was impossible for such an accident to happen again because there was no longer a second female sovereign among the emperors on the scene. After a series of battles, Ning Fan had already figured out the actual strength of these immortal emperors of the foreign races. The other party definitely came prepared. They had even made specific arrangements to deal with him. Every time Ning Fan approached them with his speed and trapped an immortal emperor of a foreign race within the range of the cross-shaped halos, the other immortal emperors of the foreign races would immediately take action and rescue their companions from the halos. As for these immortal emperors of the foreign races, each of them had an immortal talisman on their bodies to protect themselves. Every time Ning Fan wanted to use the heaven sealing technique on them, the immortal talisman would automatically protect them, rendering them ineffective. Even though the ancient Devil Mountain breaking technique was powerful, each of these immortal emperors had thick skin and flesh. It was difficult to kill them and their attacks were not weak either. The Dragon Horse Crown Prince's fate-severing sword in front of him and Aflo's Karma Golden Arrow behind him made Ning Fan feel fearful. Other than that, there were also some immortal emperors of the foreign races who possessed strange abilities. They might not be enough to kill Ning Fan, but they could still ambush him. It was simply impossible to guard against them. As a result, Ning Fan was gradually injured by the attacks of the immortal emperors of the foreign races. More and more of them accumulated. The speed at which they were accumulating eventually surpassed the healing speed of the cross-shaped halos. Ning Fan could not help but admit that if he continues to rely on the cross-shaped halos, the eternal true body and the ancient devil mountain breaking technique, he would certainly die here in the end. After all, he was just an ancient immortal venerate. To him, it was already very heaven-defying to fight a few immortal emperors who were at a higher cultivation level than him. If he could still win against 16 to 17 immortal emperors who were at a higher cultivation level than him, those immortal emperors of the Doomsday Era would really be worthless. They might as well find a piece of tofu and kill themselves. My cultivation base is still too low. If that's the case, I can only rely on my magic treasures. When Ning Fan blocked the attacks of a few immortal emperors with his devil fists again, he suddenly took out two of his treasures, causing the expressions of the experts in the surroundings to change drastically. The immemorial lightning cauldron. The world bottle with water flooding. All of them were actually mid-grade innate magic treasures. Even though the Sun Moon Star Steel was powerful, it was only a single target attack. It was already very rare for it to be able to block the Crown Prince of the Dragon Horse clan. In the current situation, magic treasures that could attack a group were certainly more practical. Ning Fan did not plan to fight a war of attrition with these experts of the foreign races. He wanted to wipe out all of them in one fell swoop. Mid-grade innate magic treasures. He actually has 2 mid-grade innate magic treasures. Impossible. He isn't a quasi-Saint Realm expert. How is it possible for him to have so many mid-grade innate magic treasures? Including the twin steels that attacked the Crown Prince, doesn't that mean he has 3 mid-grade innate magic treasures? Even a quasi-Saint Realm expert shouldn't do this. Defend with all your might. I'm afraid this brat is going to attack with all his might. Get into formation. Use the 1,000 dragons converging water formation and combine our forces to resist this brat's all-out attack. All of the experts of the foreign races were shocked by Ning Fan's magic treasures. Sovereign Origin Pill also joined the foreign experts in forming the formation. Previously, when the foreign experts attacked Ning Fan, he was fearful of Ning Fan's strength. Thus, he only watched from the side and did not dare to attack Ning Fan personally as he was afraid that something might happen to him. However, at this moment, Ning Fan was obviously going to use his ultimate attack. If he still does not join the defense, he would definitely suffer a great loss. Thus, he no longer held back. The situation instantly became a little strange. On one side, there was a lone immortal venerate. On the other side, there were more than 1,000 experts of the foreign races. Excluding Aphrodite, there were still a total of 16 immortal emperors and 70 to 80 immortal venerates and immortal kings. Be it in terms of numbers or cultivation base, the foreign races had an absolute advantage. However, at this moment, thousands of foreign races were facing Ning Fan alone as if they were facing a formidable enemy. All of them formed a formation to defend themselves. They knew that Ning Fan was about to use his ultimate attack. However, there were some things that could not be blocked even if they knew about it. For example, the dazzling lightning light of the immemorial lightning cauldron. When the lightning light of the immemorial lightning cauldron shot out, countless foreign races were blinded by it. The lightning light penetrated their spirit sense and caused their formation to fall into chaos. The primordial pill's sovereign was also blinded by it. At this moment, his eyes were bleeding and he could not see anything at all. He had no idea what Ning Fan was doing at this moment. His eyes could not see and his spirit sense could not sense anything as well. Even though some of the immortal emperors managed to reconstruct their eyes in an instant, they were still blinded by the lightning light of the immemorial lightning cauldron. No one could see clearly what Ning Fan was doing at this moment. All of them were frightened by the terrifying lightning light of the immemorial lightning cauldron. They only knew that they must defend with all their might at this moment. Each of them activated their defensive abilities to the maximum and tried to find a way to sense the outside world to resist the radiance of the lightning cauldron. Ning Fan himself also could not open his eyes under the dazzling light of the immemorial lightning cauldron. There was no need for him to open his eyes. Why would he need to open his eyes for the upcoming attack? He slapped the void space skillfully. Ancient formation marks that contained the light of the Big Dipper appeared in the sky in an instant, mobilizing all the water elemental power in the world. In an instant, the surface of the realm river turned into a sea that was as red as blood. The boundless sea. At the moment when he summoned the boundless sea, Ning Fan activated the bottle of water drowning the realm. The sky also turned into a sea. The defying mortal sea. Those experts of the foreign races who could not open their eyes did not know what kind of strange scene was happening between heaven and earth. Even though they could not see it, they could instinctively sense that a great danger was approaching them. They wanted to form a defensive formation, but in the end, they were drowned by the incomparably heavy sea waves. This was the strongest water attack that Ning Fan had fused with the seawater of the boundless sea and the defying mortal sea, boundless sea. Let's attack together and form a defensive formation. Impossible. What kind of sea wave is this? It's so heavy. We can't block it. Damn it. We can't block it. As members of the Water Clan, we actually can't block the enemy's water attack. My natal fish scales have been crushed. This sea wave is too powerful. Impossible. This is impossible. My physical body is going to be crushed. This brat's attack is too powerful. We can't fight him head-on. Run. Let's run together. Otherwise, we will drown to death here. Damn it. Damn it. Ah. Miserable cries could be heard everywhere. After a long time, the waves subsided. Ning Fan kept the immemorial lightning cauldron, the flooded world bottle and the sun, moon and stars steel. He dispersed his eternal true body and stared at the water of the realm river which had regained its calmness. Above the boundary river, countless insect eggs were crushed by the waves. There were even corpses with dirty blood floating on the surface. This time, Ning Fan's indiscriminate attack directly cleared away all the insect eggs within tens of thousands of li of the water area and drowned more than 1,000 experts of the foreign races in one go. The bottle of water drowning the realm was supposed to be an attack that covered an entire realm. However, because of the seal that immortal sovereign Zi-Do placed on the realm river, the water elemental power in this place was restricted. As a result, the range of Ning Fan's indiscriminate attack could only cover tens of thousands of li of the realm river. It was far from being able to flood an entire world. Ning Fan had already considered the fact that the immortal sovereign realm's seal in the realm river would impose a restriction on the water flooding bottle. That was why he dared to use the bottle here. Otherwise, wouldn't he just flood the entire realm river? If this was the case, the eastern sky cultivators located in other parts of the boundary river would also perish together. Although he knew of the existence of such a restriction, he didn't know that it would be so great. If the water only covered tens of thousands of kilometers, it might be enough to deal with ordinary alien race formidable martial artists. However, it would be difficult to deal with those immortal thearchs. Its power would be greatly reduced. Ning Fan sighed softly. If he did not sense wrongly, there were a total of 14 immortal thearchs of the foreign races who managed to escape back to the bottom of the water with only minor injuries. If the water flooding bottle could exert its full power, it would definitely not have only caused minor injuries to these people. Those immortal thearchs who were lightly injured were obviously frightened by Ning Fan's terrifying attack. They no longer dared to fight and could only retreat. Only the physical body of an immortal the arch-dragon horse with the weakest cultivation base was crushed by the waves. While he was severely injured, his true spirit was captured by Ning Fan. The unfortunate immortal the Arch who was captured by Ning Fan seemed to be the youngest prince of the Dragon Horse clan, the 16th prince. As such, Ning Fan now had a total of 7 Dragon Horse true spirits in his hands. At this moment, the weakened true spirit of the 16th prince was trembling in Ning Fan's hands. He was really frightened by the terrifying attack of Ning Fan's water-evolving world. Was that an attack that an ancient immortal venerable could use? With just a single move, he actually killed 70 to 80 immortal venerables and immortal kings. He even destroyed his own physical body and scared the rest of the immortal thearchs away. It seems like all of your Dragon Horse brothers have abandoned you. Ning Fan said indifferently. Humph. They are just afraid of your water attack, so they temporarily went back to the bottom of the water. They will still come to save me. The 16th prince said firmly. Being afraid of Ning Fan was one thing. Maintaining the noble spirit of the Dragon Horse clan was another. Is that so? If they really dare to come out of the water to save you, I don't mind drowning them again. Humph. When my brothers borrow the great divine priest's sea calming godly needle, your water attack will definitely. The 16th prince wanted to say something ruthless to Ning Fan, but he swallowed his words when they reached the tip of his tongue. He was afraid that Ning Fan would get too much information about them. Ning Fan, however, still managed to glean some information from the 16th prince's words. See steadying divine needle, from the name of this item, one could tell that it was a supreme treasure that could restrain water attacks. If those immortal emperors of the foreign races who had escaped really borrowed this item from the great divine priest, it would not be so easy for him to drown a world with water again. If you are sensible, let me go and my other brothers go. I can plead with the great divine priest to spare your life. The 16th prince said again. Cut the crap. Become this Ning's prisoner together with your 6 brothers. Ning Fan sealed the 16th prince heavily and locked him in the profound Yin world. Then, he looked at the vast sky with a mocking expression and sneered at a place where there was no one. Fellow Taoist Yuan Dan, are you still not going to show yourself? Don't tell me you want me to ask you to show yourself. Ning Fan's voice reverberated in the silent world, but there was no response. Seeing this, Ning Fan casually threw a punch at the place where there was no one, shattering the space. As the space collapsed, a strange-looking thing fell out from it. It looked at Ning Fan with a face full of fear. Judging from its chi, this thing was undoubtedly the true body of Sovereign Yuan Dan. His second primordial spirit had already drowned in the waves. From the looks of it, it would be difficult for people to associate this strange creature with the primal Pill Emperor. Sovereign Yuan Dan was in the same situation as the unlucky 16th prince. He was severely injured by Ning Fan and was on the verge of death. The reason why the other immortal emperors of foreign races could escape with light injuries was largely related to their identity as members of the water race. Sovereign Yuan Dan was a member of the water race. He was proficient in escaping through water and his water resistance was also high. Thus, drowning him to death was a good thing. However, Sovereign Yuan Dan was not a member of the water race. Not only was he not a member of the water race, but his innate attribute was also fire. Thus, he was naturally in conflict with water. Ning Fan's attack did not directly drown him to death. Due to his severe injuries, Sovereign Yuan Dan was forced to reveal his true form. His original appearance was not that of a human. Instead, it was an elixir with hair, a human face, and limbs. It turned out that the true form of the Sovereign Yuan Dan, whose name shook the entire eastern heaven, was actually a pill devil. Ning Fan had already known about this during the Sun Luo chaos in the past. Thus, he was naturally not that surprised at this moment. After being forced out by Ning Fan's punch, Sovereign Yuan Dan was shocked beyond words. He turned into a rainbow and tried to escape. Unfortunately, he was not Ning Fan's match even when he was at his peak. Now that he was severely injured and only had his true form left, it was naturally impossible for him to escape from Ning Fan's palm. Ning Fan caught up to Sovereign Yuan Dan in a flash and gave him a good beating. Let me go. Sovereign Yuan Dan actually wanted to beg for mercy. Unfortunately, Ning Fan completely ignored Sovereign Yuan Dan's begging. After tens of breaths, Sovereign Yuan Dan lost consciousness after being beaten by Ning Fan. In the end, he was still captured alive by Ning Fan. In this way, Ning Fan could be considered to have captured two immortal emperors. Two immortal emperors might seem impressive, but compared to Ning Fan's previous achievements, it was nothing. Speaking of which, the second captive, the Sovereign Yuan Dan, who was a pill devil, seems to be quite tasty, Ning Fan pondered inwardly. If he eats this huge pill of Sovereign Yuan Dan, I wonder if his cultivation base will increase tremendously. Sovereign Yuan Dan was an immortal emperor-level pill devil. The origin of his pills was very difficult to detect. It would take a lot of effort to figure it out. If the true form of a Sovereign Yuan Dan was an immortal emperor realm pill devil, then such a huge pill would be enough to make his cultivation base skyrocket. However, if it were other types of pills, it might not necessarily be able to increase his cultivation base. Sovereign Yuan Dan, who was in a coma, naturally did not know that his lifetime of cultivation base was about to go down the drain. As for Ning Fan, he was thinking about how to consume this huge pill of his. Chapter 1122. Ning Fan did not have the time to care about those captives for now. As for the spoils of war, most of the foreign races did not use magical treasures, and they rarely carried storage pouches with them when they went out. Most of their belongings were hidden in their caves at the bottom of the river. Therefore, even though Ning Fan killed quite a number of them in this battle, he did not get much from them. Ning Fan did not get any innate magical treasures from capturing the 16th prince of the dragon horse, but he devoured his innate dragon fire. Ning Fan did not have the time to search Aphrodite's body when he captured her. Her golden bow seemed to be hidden in her dantian. Perhaps it would be a good magical treasure. After capturing Sovereign Primordial Pill, other than earning an extra large-sized pill for free, Ning Fan had also obtained his storage pouch. As a member of the Eastern Heavens Cultivators, Sovereign Primordial Pill retained the habits of the Eastern Heavens Cultivators. He always carried a storage pouch with him when he went out. Ning Fan was not interested in the strength of Sovereign Yuan Dan. However, Sovereign Yuan Dan's storage pouch was unexpectedly rich. Heavenly Emperor Qi Breaking Needle, relic of the ancient Heavenly Court. Innate low grade. Half damaged. Its power is less than 10%. This was the treasure that Sovereign Yuan Dan used to sneak attack Ning Fan. According to this treasure, Sovereign Yuan Dan was only its second master. Its first master was the former master of the ancient Heavenly Court, Heavenly Emperor. Demon Sealing Sword, half-damaged innate low-grade magical treasure. Its power is less than 10%. This treasure claimed to be the sword of Great Emperor Mo Zhong, the Devil Lord of the Devil Conferral Summit. Dark Star Child, concealed weapon type innate magical treasure. Half-damaged. Its power is less than 10%. This treasure claimed to be the hidden weapon of the old ancestor of the dark race, an Yuanchen. Due to some reasons, it was rewarded to Sovereign Yuan Dan. Ancient Demon Dragon Bone, this bone claimed to be one of the broken bones of the ancestral dragon Zhu Li. It has lost its spiritual nature and is useless. Blue Luan Blood Essence. This blood essence claims to be the blood of an ancient great demon Blue Luan. It has lost its spiritual nature. Immemorial Pill Devil Pill God Fragment. Ning Fan could recognize this item even without using all things communication. This item was given to Sovereign Yuan Dan by Sun Luo in the past. Ancient Devil Tentacle, it seems to be the tentacle left behind by an ancient great devil called Chong Hun. It looks a little dirty and has lost its spiritual nature. Ethereal Immortality Pill, a type of 9 transformations golden pill. It can make a cultivator feel like an immortal for a short period and forget all their troubles. with the convenience of all things communication, Ning Fan could to chat with non-living things and obtain a large amount of information. With all things communication, Ning Fan could to talk to and to obtain a lot of information. These two items were treasures of the summit of Devil Conferral. The Arch Yuan Dan seemed to have a close relationship with the summit of Devil Conferral. As of these items were from of to and were for not to of to of a fan. As to for of to for. Of Ning. To of to for to. As for those items, it was an eye-opener for Ning Fan. At the same time, it also made him speechless. It seemed like Sovereign Yuan God only looked at the background of the item. As long as it had a background, he would collect it regardless of whether it was useful or not. He seemed to be a collector. Unfortunately, from today onwards, all of these items belonged to Ning Fan. Of course, not all of Sovereign Yuan God's items were rubbish. There were also some good items. 2 traces of Genesis Chi. Sovereign Yuan God had spent countless years to collect them. He had been reluctant to use them all this time. Now, Ning Fan was the one who benefited from them. Ning Fan thought to himself. Now, he no longer needed to use Genesis Chi as a trump card. He could directly devour it to improve his cultivation base. Consuming limitless pills was just a common cultivation method of the ancient cultivators. Genesis Chi was one of the few treasures that could greatly improve a cultivator's cultivation base. There were 100 heaven and earth peach branches, 33 heaven and earth peach blossoms, 8 heaven and earth peach fruits and 1 heaven and earth peach tree. Be it peach branches, peach blossoms, or peach fruits, they were all products produced during the growth of the heavenly peach tree. Consuming and refining them could greatly enhance a cultivator's medicine soul, and they could also be used to refine wood attribute magical treasures. The peach tree of heaven and earth was the most precious item. It was a divine tree that was as famous as the wondrous tree of 7 treasures. After many years of refinement by Emperor Yuan Dan, although it was not a magical treasure, it already possessed the power of a lower-grade connate magical treasure. Just like the wondrous tree of 7 treasures, this tree had great potential. As long as it was nurtured properly, it could even serve as a protective treasure for a sage. Without any hesitation, Ning Fan directly planted the heaven and earth peach tree in the 100 Herbs garden of the divine farmer, making it live next to the tree of 7 wonders. Cursed Gourd. This item was the treasure that Sovereign Yuan Dan used to lure Ning Fan. After capturing Sovereign Yuan Dan, this treasure naturally belonged to Ning Fan. I wonder if this treasure is the Qi and Blood Gourd. Ning Fan activated the divine blood in his body to sense the gourd. A few breaths later, he revealed a disappointed look. Unfortunately, this treasure wasn't the blood and Qi gourd. This was an expected result. How could the blood and Qi gourd be so easy to find? Because Ning Fan was already mentally prepared, he only sighed for a moment even though he was disappointed. Then, he regained his composure. Even though this treasure wasn't the Qi and Blood Gourd, it was also a low-grade innate magic treasure that was hard to come by. It possessed a rather strong curse power. If someone who was proficient in curse techniques were to equip this gourd, the power of their curse techniques would be doubled. Suddenly, Old Wu's ugly face appeared in Ning Fan's mind. The curse effect of Old Wu's bad luck was already very strong. If I give this treasure to Old Wu, it will double the power of his curse. This item is indeed useful. However, it is not suitable to be used as a material for incineration. After sorting out his spoils of war, Ning Fan looked at the boundless river and felt a little worried. His battle arc had been destroyed by the experts of the foreign races. The magnetic force of the realm river was very strong. Even an immortal emperor's spirit sense could not spread too far in this place. Without a battle arc as a means of transportation, even an immortal emperor who was as strong as him would find it difficult to move an inch in the realm river. Fortunately, my Tao of divination has improved slightly. Now, I can use the treasure-searching compass to locate the location of the realm river. With the treasure-searching compass, even if I lose my battle arc, I can still walk on the realm river with some difficulty. Those experts of the foreign races have been repelled by me. In a short period of time, they probably won't come back and court their own deaths. Most likely, they will first think of a way to restrain my world-submerged water bottle. After they are safe, they will come for revenge. For the time being, I don't have to worry about those immortal emperors of the foreign races chasing after me. However, if they come again in the future, they will certainly have something to rely on. I'm afraid it will be very difficult for me to defeat them with the world-submerged water bottle again. While Ning Fan was pondering, his expression suddenly changed. All of a sudden, a sinister laughter of a woman resounded from the depths of his sea of consciousness. It was extremely strange. "Little thief, you've been too careless. You didn't even notice that your sea of consciousness has been invaded by me. Ha ha ha. The successor of ancient chaos who has shaken the entire eastern heaven is just as so. Ning Fan scanned his sea of consciousness and his eyes immediately turned grim. At this moment, there was actually a black-robed lady who was about the same size as a speck of dust in his heavenly spiritual sea. When did this lady invade his sea of consciousness? He actually did not sense anything at all. This was really unimaginable. One should know that his perception was not much weaker than a quasi-saint realm expert's. Since this lady could invade his sea of consciousness, she could also invade the sea of consciousness of a slightly weaker quasi-saint realm expert. What a powerful lady. He had never heard of her before. Who are you? Why did you invade my sea of consciousness? Even though he was shocked, he did not panic. Even though this lady's stealth ability was very strong, her cultivation base seemed to be very low. After all, she was just a speck of dust. How strong could she be? If an ordinary immortal emperor's sea of consciousness was invaded by this lady, they would probably be flustered. After all, even a powerful immortal emperor's sea of consciousness was a fragile place. However, Ning Fan was different. His divine spirit sea had already been forged into an iron bucket. Even if it directly withstands the attack of a 12th nirvana magic treasure, his sea of consciousness would not necessarily be injured. Even if a speck of dust gets blown into his sea of consciousness, so what? It could not hurt his sea of consciousness at all. You're asking me who I am? Hee hee. Listen carefully. My name is Yin Ji. I'm the one and only dust immortal in this world. Because I have an agreement with the Primordial Pill Emperor, I'm willing to be his disciple and obey his orders. You're too hateful. How dare you plot against the Primordial Pill Emperor and capture him? If you know what's good for you, quickly let go of the Primordial Pill Emperor and I will spare your life. Otherwise, this young lady will definitely destroy your sea of consciousness and cause your sea of consciousness to collapse and die. The woman threatened. This lady is the Primordial Pill Emperor's subordinate. Ning Fan was slightly surprised. He did not expect the Primordial Pill Emperor to have a pretty good seedling among his subordinates despite his weak strength. She actually managed to invade his sea of consciousness without him noticing. He was afraid that he would not be able to find a second person like her in the Dharma-ending era. Even a quasi-saint realm expert or an ancient great cultivator would not be able to do this. After all, the Tao of perception had always been Ning Fan's strong point. If he keeps his guard up, even a quasi-saint realm expert would not be able to get close to him. You're threatening me. Do you know that I hate being threatened the most? Ning Fan said indifferently. Even though this lady's abilities were strange, he would not show any mercy if she is his enemy. Cut the crap. Just tell me if you're going to let go of the Primordial Pill Emperor or not. If you don't let him go, I will really take action. Seeing that Ning Fan remained unmoved, the lady said angrily. If you want to take action, you can try. You're the one who forced me to do this. I don't want to kill in the first place. However, since you insist on seeking death, I will send you on your way. Immemorial Yin Sense Thorn. The lady condensed all of her Yin Qi into a thin needle and pierced it into Ning Fan's sea of consciousness. Her cultivation base was not high, but this stab was quite impressive. Unless the opponent was an immortal emperor who had refined his or her sea of consciousness, even an immortal emperor who was as strong as him would be injured by her stab. Unfortunately, this stab could not pierce through Ning Fan's sea of consciousness at all. It's impossible. You're just an ancient immortal venerate. How can your sea of consciousness be so strong? You. The lady's expression changed drastically. Not to mention ancient immortal venerates, even among the immortal emperors, how many of them could have a sea of consciousness that was as strong as Ning Fan's? This man is simply a monster. You've already done it. Now, it's my turn. Ning Fan activated his chaotic world purple light and scanned through his sea of consciousness. He easily knocked out the lady and dragged her out of his sea of consciousness, capturing her. Looking at the lady in black robes who was as small as a speck of dust in his palm, Ning Fan could not help but sigh at the wonders of creation. It was all thanks to his incredible eyesight. Ordinary cultivators might not be able to see an existence of this size clearly, but he could see it with incomparable clarity. It was an extremely beautiful lady even though she was only the size of a speck of dust. Her body size was extremely small. However, it was not because she had shrunk her body size using a divine ability. Instead, she was born this way. If Ning Fan's heavenly being eyesight was not mistaken, this lady attained her Tao through dust. The type of dust was the pill ashes left behind after a failed pill refinement. This lady was able to sneak into Ning Fan's sea of consciousness without anyone noticing. In terms of stealth ability, she was probably the number one in the entire Eastern Heaven. Of course, it was just that her strength was a little low. Even if she managed to sneak into Ning Fan's sea of consciousness, she could not hurt him at all. However, if this lady intrudes into the sea of consciousness of other immortal emperors, even if it is far from enough to kill an immortal emperor, it would still be able to injure his sea of consciousness. If this lady is used properly, she would be no different from a great killing weapon. Even a quasi-saint realm expert would fall into her trap if they are careless. Ning Fan activated his divine ability and woke the lady up. Then, he said indifferently. The treasures of that old man Yuan Dan are all mine now. You naturally belong to me as well. Yin Ji, right? From today onwards, you are my servant. Of course, I never force others to do things against their will. If you insist on not surrendering, I will still send you to your death because I respect your loyalty. The black-robed lady fell into an unprecedented struggle. She had a promise with Emperor Yuan Dan that she would serve him for the rest of her life in exchange for him to do something for her. However, after so many years, Emperor Yuan Dan seemed to have never taken her request to heart. It made her extremely disappointed. Even so, he never took the initiative to break his promise. She was a person who kept her promises. However, now that a great disaster was about to befall her, she could not help but resent Emperor Yuan Dan a little. If Emperor Yuan Dan fulfilled his promise and helped her improve her cultivation base, she would definitely be able to pierce through Ning Fan's sea of consciousness and kill him. She would not have to be captured by Ning Fan and wait for her death miserably. To surrender or not to surrender? Who doesn't care about their own lives? If it is for someone who is worth it, she is also willing to die for him. However, is Emperor Yuan Dan really worthy of her death? Senior Yuan Dan promised me one thing but he did not fulfill his promise. If you promise me one thing, I am willing to surrender to you. What is it? Ning Fan really wanted to subdue this strange lady. Thus, he was not angry at her request. Why you? The lady seemed to be a little embarrassed to speak her mind. She gritted her teeth and endured the redness in her face to speak her mind. I want you to help me find someone. Find someone? Who do you want to find? I don't know who he is. I don't know what he looks like. I don't even know if he's a man or a woman. However, I remember the taste of his tears. It's unique. It's very bitter. It's 10,000 times more bitter than Jia Nan's sea of bitterness. He had once transformed me with a drop of his tears and cultivated a spiritual sense from a grain of incense ash. I must repay him. To repay him. That's why she's looking for someone. Ning Fan smiled faintly. He quite liked this lady's temperament. Then, he felt a headache coming. This lady kept saying that she wanted to find someone. Unfortunately, she could not even tell whether the person she was looking for was a man or a woman, a human or a demon. She had never seen the person she wanted to find. He could only remember the taste of that person's teardrop. That person's teardrop transformed it into a human form. How am I going to find him with this little information? Ning Fan sighed softly. Even though he really wanted to subdue this lady, he really could not find the person she was looking for. I'm sorry. The information you've given me is too little. I'm afraid I won't be able to find the person you're looking for just based on the taste of his tears. Is that so? You really can't find him? Even though you're much stronger than Senior Primal Core Realm, you don't have the confidence to find him. Senior Primal Core Realm, on the other hand, insisted that he could find him for me. He was just lying to me. He wanted me to work for him for free. The lady was very disappointed. She had almost forgotten how many years she had been searching for that person. It was really a long journey. She really wanted to find the person who had enlightened her and thank him properly. Where is the person whose tears were even more bitter than Jia Nan's sea of bitterness now? Or perhaps, he had already disappeared in the endless passage of time. You should think about it again. Do you want to change your request? Submit to me. I'll give you time to think about it. As soon as he finished speaking, Ning Fan casually placed the lady into his sea of consciousness. He planned to keep her in his vast sea of consciousness like how he would rear a fish. You actually trust me so much that you're willing to let me stay in your sea of consciousness. The lady was extremely touched. When she was working hard for the Primal Core Realm, he was never willing to let her enter his sea of consciousness. However, her cultivation required her to stay in someone else's sea of consciousness. Ning Fan smiled and did not answer her. This was trust. However, what Ning Fan trusted was not the lady but his own strength. He was confident that even if he let her stay in his sea of consciousness, she would not be able to harm his sea of consciousness at all, let alone prying into his memories. Of course, Ning Fan would not explain this to the lady. He was happy to let the lady misunderstand his trust and gradually develop a sense of loyalty towards him. If he could really make this lady submit to him wholeheartedly and subdue her, he could also use her to slightly harm the sea of consciousness of a quasi-saint realm expert in the future. If he could do this at a crucial moment, it would definitely be very useful. After dealing with Yin Ji, Ning Fan did not stay in this place for long. Instead, he activated the treasure-searching compass and determined the direction of heaven and earth. Then, he flew towards the Lingyun Pass, ignoring the obstruction of the magnetic force. How could the speed of the battle arc be compared to Ning Fan's own speed? The journey that took several hours to go to the Lingyun Pass took him less than the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. Seeing that Ning Fan could actually move freely in the border river without using the battle arc, all the cultivators who were guarding the pass were shocked. Of course, what was even more shocking was that Sovereign Primordial Pill, who went on a treasure hunt with Ning Fan, was actually killed by Ning Fan. In this life, Ning Fan did not plan to hide this matter. How could others not ask about the disappearance of an immortal emperor? Thus, it was better for him to explain it to them first to avoid any misunderstandings. Ning Fan announced the whole story of how he captured Sovereign Primordial Pill and reported it to Taiyuan Ferry. In order to prove that he was forced to kill Sovereign Primordial Pill because he had no other choice, Ning Fan even made a large number of jade slips to record what happened and sent all of them back to Taiyuan Ferry. With conclusive evidence, everyone knew that Ning Fan had killed Sovereign Primordial Pill out of self-defense. Naturally, no one would blame Ning Fan for this. Others would only be angry at Sovereign Primordial Pill for betraying the alliance, colluding with the foreign races and betraying the Eastern Heaven. In front of a great enemy, who would be willing to have a traitor on their side? All of Sovereign Primordial Pill's disciples were captured. According to investigations, these people were also involved in the betrayal of the Primordial Pill realm. This matter was intolerable to Emperor Tsang and the others. Under the rage of the crowd, these people were all executed by the furious cultivators of the Eastern Heaven. When the news of Ning Fan capturing another 2 immortal emperors of the foreign races gradually spread, the entire border river was in an uproar. Ning Fan's reputation became even greater. This was also because Ning Fan did not reveal that one of the 2 immortal emperors of the foreign races was a 9 tribulation immortal emperor. If the people of the world knew that Ning Fan had even captured a 9 tribulation immortal emperor, they would probably start to doubt their own lives. As the saying goes, going too far is as bad as falling short. Ning Fan did not want to cause too much of a commotion. Moreover, he did not capture Afro in a fair battle. He had relied on trickery. There was nothing to boast about. After dealing with the trivial matters, Ning Fan informed all the cultivators in Lingyun Pass that he was going into seclusion. If there was nothing important, they were not to disturb him. On the first day of his seclusion, Ning Fan interrogated Sovereign Primordial Pill and even searched his soul and memories. No one knew what Ning Fan knew after prying open Sovereign Primordial Pill's mouth. On the second day of his seclusion, Yin Ji, the lady covered in dust, gave him an answer. She was willing to serve Ning Fan. However, her condition was changed. She could call Ning Fan her master, but she was not willing to be enslaved by Ning Fan. Ning Fan also did not have the ability to plant an enslavement seal on a lady who was as small as a speck of dust. The restrictions on enslavement seals were too complicated. Planting an enslavement seal on Yin Ji was no different from drawing a 10,000 li landscape on a speck of dust. When it reached such a microscopic level, even Ning Fan could not control his magic power to lay down such a meticulous restriction. Fortunately, Ning Fan's mind-reading technique allowed him to observe people's minds. He knew that Yin Ji was a lady who kept her word. Since she had promised to serve him, she would not go back on her words. Even if she does, Ning Fan was confident that he could subdue her. There was nothing to worry about. When this lady truly serves Ning Fan, it meant that she no longer had any relationship with her former master, Sovereign Primordial Pill. Therefore, when Ning Fan decided to kill Sovereign Primordial Pill, she did not plead for him even though she felt a little reluctant. She believed in Buddhism, and Buddhism was particular about the cycle of karma. Sovereign Primordial Pill only had himself to blame. She naturally understood that. Sovereign Primordial Pill's true form was not the limitless pill or any other pills that could increase one's cultivation base. This made Ning Fan rather disappointed. Sovereign Primordial Pill's true form was a type of pill called Immortal Sense Pill. After searching through Sovereign Primordial Pill's memories, Ning Fan found out that Sovereign Primordial Pill was originally the Immortal Sense Pill concocted by Medicine Saint Nan when he was still alive. Many years after Medicine Saint Nan's death, the Immortal Sense Pill mutated and turned into a pill devil. That was how Sovereign Primordial Pill came to be. The Immortal Sense Pill was just a 9-revolution golden pill. However, as Sovereign Primordial Pill continued to improve, the grade of this pill was no longer comparable to the past. It had already advanced to the 9 revolutions Emperor Pill, and it was even a pill that was half a step away from the 10 revolutions Ancestral Pill. Even Ning Fan was moved by the strength of the medicinal power. After Ning Fan destroyed Sovereign Primordial Pill's spirit sense, he refined it again and finally assimilated it into his body. As the medicinal power spread throughout his body, Ning Fan's spirit sense cultivation base began to skyrocket. After that, he once again obtained the opportunity to break through to the eternal forethought realm. There were 4 great realms in the spirit sense cultivation base of ancient cultivators. Each realm was more profound than the previous. The lowest threshold was called waterfall thought. When Ning Fan attempted to break through to the waterfall realm again, he could not help but think of Tu Huang. He remembered the time when he shared the ancient Buddha Dao fruit with Tu Huang and the scenes when he attempted to break through to the waterfall realm. What a pity. Sure enough, it's still too early for you to achieve waterfall thought. Don't be discouraged. There will still be chances in the future. You can break through slowly. Even with my innate talent, I failed more than 100 times to break through to the waterfall thought realm in the past. If you succeed in one go, I won't have the face to live anymore. Tu Huang's words were still ringing in Ning Fan's ears. He calmed himself down and cleared away all distracting thoughts, focusing on breaking through. It was very dangerous to be absent-minded at such a crucial moment. Ning Fan did not dare to be careless. In the past, when he attempted to break through to the waterfall realm for the first time, he failed. Today was his second attempt. This time, Ning Fan had absolute confidence that he would succeed because he had directly swallowed a large immortal sense pill of a 7 tribulation immortal emperor realm cultivator. I will succeed. This time, I will definitely succeed. Green Spirit, just watch. This time, I will succeed. Yin Ji, who was in Ning Fan's sea of consciousness, witnessed the whole process of Ning Fan's sea of consciousness shattering and reforming with her own eyes. She saw that the threads of Ning Fan's spirit sense kept growing stronger and stronger, gradually turning into a waterfall. She also saw that the cultivation base of Ning Fan's spirit sense suddenly skyrocketed. In just half a day, his spirit sense had actually become more than 10 times stronger than before. Roar! Ning Fan let out a long roar. A vast spirit sense pressure spread from the place where he was in seclusion, spreading across the entire Lingyun Pass. That level of spirit sense pressure was no longer something that an immortal venerable could possess. It was already much stronger than most of the immortal kings. The enormous medicinal power of the immortal sense pill allowed Ning Fan to break through to the waterfall realm. His spirit sense strength skyrocketed by 10 times. However, this was not the end. Only less than half of the medicinal power of the immortal sense pill was used. The remaining medicinal power continued to increase the cultivation base of Ning Fan's spirit sense, causing it to gradually stabilize. Then, it began to advance towards the next realm of the Four Thoughts realm. The first level of the eternal Four Thoughts realm was waterfall thought and the second level was stream thought. Ning Fan's spirit sense became stronger and stronger. Gradually, it began to exceed the level of an immortal king and reached the level of an ordinary 6 tribulation immortal emperor. He began to rely on the strength of his spirit sense to break through to the stream realm. However, he failed this time. 1 failure, 2 failures. After failing a few times, Ning Fan gave up on this matter. He knew that his current spirit sense cultivation base was still lacking. Unless he had 1 or 2 large-sized immortal sense pills, he would never be able to break through to the stream realm. What a pity. I'm afraid I won't be able to find another immortal sense pill as delicious as Sovereign Yuan's, Ning Fan said regretfully. Feeling his spirit sense which was more than 20 times stronger than before, Ning Fan smiled in satisfaction. In the past, when his spirit sense was still weak, he could rely on the rain technique to sense things that were not much weaker than a quasi-sage. Now that his spirit sense had improved tremendously, his senses were naturally much sharper than some first-level quasi-sages. Although his cultivation base did not increase due to the great increase in his spirit sense, his combat power, magic power consumption, the details of his abilities and many other aspects had improved tremendously. After devouring Sovereign Yuan's main body, Ning Fan continued to refine the 2 traces of Sovereign Yuan's origin qi. Ning Fan's divine spirit body was extremely strong. It was not too difficult for him to refine the origin qi directly. Moreover, his refining speed was incomparably shocking. After consuming the 2 traces of origin qi, Ning Fan's ancient God realm cultivation base increased by hundreds of tribulations magic power, reaching the threshold of the 1,000 tribulations realm. Moreover, it triggered the first cultivation tribulation since he broke through to the eternal immortal venerate realm. If he succeeds in overcoming the tribulation, he would become a single tribulation ancient God realm cultivator. Perhaps it was because Ning Fan had cultivated the divine spirit Tao, the power of his cultivation tribulation was actually much more terrifying than the 5 tribulations of others even though it was just a single tribulation cultivation tribulation. When red clouds appeared in the sky above the Lingyun Pass and thick red lightning bolts that were strong enough to injure a 5 tribulation immortal king fell from the sky, the entire pass was shocked. The direction of the heavenly tribulation had locked onto Ning Fan's place of seclusion. Without a doubt, Ning Fan had achieved a breakthrough in his cultivation base. Everyone knew that Ning Fan's rise in the eastern heaven was extremely fast. From a first-step cultivator to a newly advanced immortal venerate realm, it did not take him long at all. How long had it been? Ning Fan was actually going to become a first tribulation immortal venerate again. How could it not be shocking? Such a cultivation speed was just too frightening. Those newly advanced immortal venerates who could not even touch the bottleneck of a first tribulation cultivation tribulation after spending millions of years should really find a block of tofu and kill themselves. What was even more frightening was the power of the heavenly tribulation. Was this a single tribulation cultivation tribulation? How could its power be so terrifying? Hundreds and thousands of attacks of the heavenly tribulation descended and each of them could injure a 5 tribulation immortal king. It was not an exaggeration to say that it could destroy heaven and earth. The power of the heavenly tribulation was enough to kill all immortal venerates in the ancient times. However, to Ning Fan, it was just an attack that tickled him. Ning Fan directly activated his eternal true body and soared into the sky, shattering the tribulation clouds that covered the sky. In less than 10 breaths' time, he had already passed the single tribulation cultivation tribulation. At this moment, the breakthrough had ended. Ancient devil cultivation realm, newly advanced immortal venerate realm. Ancient demon cultivation realm, newly advanced immortal venerate realm. Jie Shui cultivation realm, 3 stars true blood realm. Ancient god realm. The first eternal tribulation. At the bottom of this realm river, there are countless 800 million een heavy wood which can be used to concoct a large number of immeasurable pills. If I can get my hands on these een heavy wood, I can become even stronger. If the foreign races are really able to restrain my water drowning base, with my current cultivation base, I definitely won't have any chance of winning if I'm surrounded by a dozen or so immortal emperors. Ning Fan's gaze shifted to the vast water area and made up his mind. Now that his spirit sense had improved tremendously, even though the magnetic force of the realm river still interfered with his spirit sense, it was not as serious as before. Perhaps it was time for him to take the risk and go to the bottom of this river. After all, it would still be dangerous to hide on the surface of the water. So, he might as well do the opposite. Of course, if he really wants to go to the bottom of the river, he would still need to disguise himself. Ning Fan was certainly not foolish enough to go into the underwater world with the identity of a cultivator from the eastern heaven. I have some matters to attend to outside. All of you stay in the pass. If the immortal emperors of the foreign races come to attack, inform me immediately. I will come back as soon as possible. Chapter 11:23. Ning Fan did not dive into the bottom of the realm river right in front of the cultivators of the Soaring Cloud Pass. Instead, he flew far away from the Soaring Cloud Pass before diving into the water of the realm river. The act of diving into the riverbed was too shocking. In the eyes of the eastern sky cultivators, it was tantamount to seeking one's own death. Ning Fan didn't want to shake the morale of Soaring Cloud Pass because of this matter. Ning Fan knew very well that the bottom of the realm river was extremely dangerous. However, didn't he capture a mermaid empress whose name was Afro? He had obtained a lot of information about the boundary river from the other party, which was why he was confident that he could move freely under the boundary river. He already had 7 dragon horse true spirits in his hands. Because they did not cultivate their sea of consciousness, he could not search their memories. As a member of a foreign race, Aphrodite also did not cultivate her sea of consciousness. However, Ning Fan was actually able to obtain a lot of information from her through the combination of mind-reading technique and bewitching technique. This surprised Ning Fan. The mind-reading technique is useless against ordinary female members of the foreign race. However, it can be used against Afro, who is a half-step quasi-saint. Why is that? During the time when Ling Yun was in seclusion, Ning Fan had interrogated Aphrodite thrice. Of course, the captured Aphrodite didn't know that it was an interrogation. Firstly, Ning Fan did not torture her. Secondly, he did not use force on her. He was just talking to her normally to make her lower her guard. Afro was not afraid that Ning Fan would kill her. She also had a unique true spirit. Besides, it was a true spirit that was of a higher grade than the dragon horse. It would be extremely difficult to kill her. She was very tight-lipped. No matter what questions Ning Fan asked her, she would not say a single word. She would only glare at Ning Fan angrily. Occasionally, when she spoke, it was just to threaten Ning Fan to let her go. Otherwise, the Merfolk clan would take revenge on her and so on. Afro did not know that Ning Fan had the mind-reading technique. Thus, she was unaware of it. Even if she kept her mouth shut, as long as she willed it, Ning Fan would still be able to find out a lot of information. If Afro was in her normal state, Ning Fan would not be able to pry into her mind with the mind-reading technique since she was a half-step quasi-saint realm expert. However, now that her cultivation base and abilities were sealed by the bewitching technique, Ning Fan could easily pry into her thoughts and obtain a large amount of information related to the foreign races. Without this information, no matter how bold Ning Fan was, he would not recklessly dive into the bottom of the river. The infiltration this time was not an impulsive move, but the result of his careful consideration. It might seem bold, but it was actually filled with confidence. Plop. The moment Ning Fan leaped into the river, circles of sealing power spread from the surface of the river to a very far distance. It was the sealing power that immortal sovereign Zido had placed in the border river. After Ning Fan had cleaned up the area, there were almost no foreign races left on the surface of the water. However, the bottom of the water was still a dragon's pond and tiger's den. You could see foreign races swimming around everywhere. There were quite a few strange races in the vicinity, and when they sensed this fluctuation entering the water, some busybodies immediately came over to take a look to see whether or not it was an eastern sky cultivator secretly sneaking into the riverbed. Several large hengong fish with thought-shattering cultivation bases were the first to swim over. After a brief examination, they discovered that the person entering the water wasn't an eastern sky cultivator, but rather a carp. That carp was naturally Ning Fan's transformation. The reason why he was able to transform into a carp was all thanks to the fact that he had devoured the eyes of the Tao carp, which allowed him to cultivate an extremely small amount of carp clan demonic blood. After obtaining Aphrodite's information, Ning Fan bought some tools through the ancient country trading formation. After a little disguise, he actually managed to disguise the demonic chi of the carp clan's demon blood as the chi of a foreign race. That was an extremely bold action. When the other eastern sky cultivators sneaked into the riverbed, all of them were extremely cautious and concealed their figures. Ning Fan, on the other hand, did the exact opposite. He openly disguised himself as a member of a foreign race and openly moved in the riverbed. Luana. Sai-mo, ka lu tianyi. The few large hengong fish spoke the language of the water race and inquired about Ning Fan's identity. From Aphrodite's memories, Ning Fan had learned some basic dialogues of the water race. Now that he was listening to the gibberish of the few large fishes, he did not feel as if he was listening to a heavenly book like the other eastern sky cultivators. In other words, it was as follows. Who are you? Why are you acting so sneakily? Which clan are you from? Since Ning Fan did not learn the language of the water race properly, he did not know many words. However, he was still able to carry out some basic dialogues. Knowing that speaking too much would lead to mistakes, Ning Fan only used the simplest language of the water race to answer them. I am a cultivator of the Heavenly Cluster Fish Clan. Heavenly Cluster Fish Clan. The few large Hengong fish were slightly stunned. Then, their eyes revealed disdain. The Heavenly Cluster Fish Clan was not a strong clan in the 11th water path. They did not even have an immortal king in their clan. They only had a few immortal venerables from the ancient times. Their overall strength was pitifully weak. They were even weaker than the descendants of some strong clans. This clan was weak in the first place. The cultivation base that Ning Fan displayed was not strong either. It was only around the void fragmentation realm. After all, his carp blood was very thin and he could not disguise the chi of a powerful member of the water race. As such, the few large Hengong fish were too lazy to talk nonsense with Ning Fan. After asking him a few questions, they directly turned around and swam away. They only needed to confirm that the person who entered the river was not a cultivator of the eastern sky. They did not have the intention to chat with the weak heavenly cluster fish. Seeing that he managed to deceive the first group of foreign races, Ning Fan's confidence was greatly boosted. He activated his giant carp demon body and swam deeper into the water. Along the way, he would occasionally encounter other members of the foreign races who came to interrogate him. Ning Fan became more and more unruffled. He used his identity as a heavenly cluster fish as a disguise to fool them. They could only blame the fact that there were too many members of the foreign races. Not everyone could recognize even immortal venerables or immortal kings of the foreign races, let alone a first-step void fragmentation realm little fish. As such, Ning Fan could actually move freely under the water without any obstruction. Now that his spirit sense had improved tremendously, even though the magnetic force under the water was much stronger than on the surface of the water, it was not to the extent where he could not spread out his spirit sense completely. He could still sense the surroundings within a range of several thousand zhang. Even though it was not too far away, it was not to the extent where he could not find the right direction under the water. He even secretly kept the treasure-searching compass in the fish's mouth and used it to determine his position. As such, he was almost as familiar with the direction of the river bottom as the real members of the foreign races. There was not a single suspicious spot on his body that would allow others to see through his identity. Ning Fan's purpose of diving into the river bottom was very clear. He wanted to steal as many heavy wood of the foreign races as possible and use them to concoct pills to improve his cultivation base. However, according to Afro's information, even though the quantity of heavy wood at the bottom of the river was huge, all of them had an owner and were controlled by various large marine races. The Heavenly Cluster Fish Clan was one of the races that controlled the heavy wood. However, because this clan was weak, the amount of heavy wood they had could not be compared to those large races. Of course, they still had a lot more heavy wood compared to the forces of the eastern sky. The foreign races did not consume pills to cultivate. Instead, they directly built their clan on the heavy wood. The ancient foreign races would directly extract the spiritual chi of the heavy wood and refine it for cultivation. According to the information given by Afro and the location of the treasure-searching compass, Ning Fan roughly determined the location of the Heavenly Cluster Fish Clan under the water and swam in that direction. The carp blood cultivation base that Ning Fan revealed was just at the void fragmentation realm. Thus, he could not swim too fast in front of the other members of the foreign races. Fortunately, the marine races did not rely on their own speed to swim at the bottom of the river. They could ride the current to move forward, which greatly increased their speed. After riding on the current, Ning Fan's speed was not slow either. In just a few days, he had already swum to the territory of the Heavenly Cluster Fish Clan. The first thing that entered his sight was a majestic giant coral city. The seven-colored light from the corals illuminated the dark bottom of the river, making it look as bright as daytime. The bottom of the river was obviously dark, but this city seemed like it would never experience night. On the city gate, there were 3 large ancient words written in the language of the foreign races. Ning Fan naturally did not recognize these words. However, he had found out from Afro that the name of this city was Hooked Jade City. Every member of the Heavenly Cluster Fish clan cultivated a strange ability called Hooked Jade. This ability was almost the symbol of the Heavenly Cluster Fish clan. Unfortunately, Ning Fan was just a fake fish. Thus, he naturally did not know how to use it. However, he was not afraid that the Heavenly Cluster Fish clan would see through his disguise. This time, when he came to the Heavenly Cluster Fish clan, Ning Fan was playing the role of an outsider who had just returned to the clan for the first time. The reproduction of the foreign races was extremely random. Be it the surface of the water or the bottom of the river, there were insect eggs scattered everywhere. These insect eggs could hatch into a large number of young members of the foreign races. Of course, not all of the young members of the foreign races could live to adulthood. Most of them would die prematurely and be eaten by other young members of the foreign races. Those who could survive through natural selection were certainly the elites. When these people grow up, they would obey the call deep in their bloodline and travel thousands of li to return to their clan to receive the arrangements and guidance of the experts of their clan. When Ning Fan arrived at the Hooked Jade City, the patrolling fish immediately noticed his chi of the Heavenly Cluster Fish clan and the fact that he had never cultivated the Hooked Jade ability. As such, these patrolling fish naturally regarded Ning Fan as a small fish who had just returned to his clan. They did not suspect his identity, but they still interrogated him according to the rules. "Hey, little brat. Where did you come from?" The language that they used to interrogate him was naturally the language of the foreign races. "Water. On the surface of the river." Ning Fan answered using the language of the foreign races that he was not familiar with. Seeing that Ning Fan was not familiar with the language of the foreign races, the patrolling fish immediately looked down on him. Normally, the foreign races with higher innate talents could automatically learn the language of the foreign races by relying on the memories of their bloodline after they reach adulthood. Only those foreign races with lower innate talents would not be able to understand the language of the foreign races and they would stutter when they speak. From the bottom of their hearts, the patrolling fish had already regarded Ning Fan as a person with mediocre innate talents. Thus, they were no longer polite when they spoke to him. They only told Ning Fan what he needed to do to acknowledge his ancestors and return to his clan before sending him to the Hooked Jade City. Ning Fan, on the other hand, was happy to not talk nonsense with these patrolling fish. Of course, he understood the logic of saying too much would lead to mistakes. After the members of the foreign races who had been lost in the outside world acknowledged their ancestors and returned to their clan, they first needed to go to the elders' courtyard where the elders of their clan resided to undergo enlightenment. The Hooked Jade City was very large. Just one city alone could accommodate millions of heavenly cluster fish. Besides, because the buildings in the city were all the same, Ning Fan had to ask for directions many times before he finally found the elders' courtyard. At this moment, there were already thousands of small fishes at the first step of cultivation base gathered in the elders' courtyard. They were all heavenly cluster fish who had come to acknowledge their ancestors and return to their clan. Every day, many small fishes would return from other places. However, it was impossible for Elder Yu, who was in charge of the elders' courtyard, to come every day to enlighten these small fishes. Elder Yu would only appear on the 1st and 15th day of every month according to the water races calendar. Today was only the 7th day of the water races calendar. He still had to wait for another 8 days before he would come. Ning Fan blended into the crowd of small fishes and waited quietly. He planned to stay here for 8 days. He was not worried about staying underwater for too long. If a battle breaks out in the Soaring Cloud Pass, he would rush back immediately. This was not a problem at all. While he was waiting, he activated the treasure-searching compass from time to secretly investigate the mineral resources in this place. If the treasure-searching compass was not mistaken, there were hundreds of gene of 800 million een heavy wood hidden under the ground of this hooked jade city. One should know that a fist-sized piece of een heavy wood was already enough to make the Eastern Heaven Immortal Emperor fight, let alone hundreds of gene worth of een heavy wood. If I use all of them to concoct pills, I wonder how many bottles of immeasurable pills I can concoct. Ning Fan suppressed the desire in his heart and did not directly snatch these een heavy wood. The underground veins of the foreign races were connected to each other. If he directly snatches the een heavy wood here, he would definitely be discovered by the quasi-saints of the foreign races. There were no quasi-saints in the territory of the 11 paths, but there were in the other waterways. If it's something else, those quasi-saints of the foreign races would come to the 11th path and interfere with the matters of the 11th path. However, if the earth veins of the een heavy wood of any clan are destroyed, the quasi-saints would immediately come to question them. To the foreign races, this matter was actually the most important matter. Its seriousness seemed to be far greater than the matter of Ning Fan causing trouble to the 11th path. Thinking of this, Ning Fan could not help but feel a headache. Of course, he did not want to attract the attention of the quasi-saints of the foreign races. However, he was also determined to obtain the een heavy wood here. Then, how can I take the een heavy wood here without anyone noticing? He fell into deep thought. Just like that, 8 days passed. Every day, there would be many heavenly cluster fishes returning from other places. They would come to the elder's courtyard to wait for the opening ceremony. When Ning Fan first arrived, there were only a few thousand small fishes in the courtyard. On the 15th day, there were already more than 10,000 small fishes in the courtyard. These small fishes did not converse with each other because everyone knew that the people who attended the opening ceremony at the same time were all competitors. There was no need for them to befriend each other. The opening ceremony of the Heavenly Cluster Fish clan was extremely bloody. It was said that thousands of fishes would have to fight and kill each other. Only the last batch of survivors would be qualified to accept Elder Yu's opening ceremony and officially join the Heavenly Cluster Fish clan. The small fishes who could come to the Heavenly Cluster Fish clan were originally elites who had gone through natural selection. After that, they would be selected through slaughter. It was no wonder that the strength of the foreign races was much higher than the Eastern Sky cultivators who were at the same level as them. When Elder Yu arrived at the Elder's courtyard, what he saw was the scene of tens of thousands of small fishes waiting quietly. He was quite satisfied with how these fishes behaved themselves. It was a strange large fish that walked upright with a forked tail as its feet and fins as its hands. As Elder Yu of the Heavenly Cluster Fish clan, his cultivation base was at the peak of the thought fragmentation realm. He was the fourth person with the most authority in the clan, second only to the three ancient immortal venerables. Elder Yu's eyes swept across the area below him indifferently. He secretly activated his bloodline to sense the surroundings. He discovered that there seemed to be a few good seedlings among the tens of thousands of fishes below him. Their bloodline density was extremely high. Of course, whether those few were really good seedlings or not still needed to be confirmed through a battle. All of you, follow me to the slaughterhouse. Elder Yu said indifferently and walked out from the back door of the Elder's courtyard. All the small fishes immediately swam behind him. On the sandy land behind the Elder's courtyard, there was an open area that was enclosed by a formation. There were countless fish bones in that area. It was the place where the small fishes who had just gained enlightenment in the past fought against each other. Under Elder Yu's command, the tens of thousands of heavenly cluster fish entered the slaughterhouse in a single file. The moment the formation door was closed, the battle began. Even though Ning Fan was already mentally prepared, he was still surprised by the indifference of the low-level foreign races towards life and death. As the saying goes, even ants seek to live. Not to mention the cultivators of the eastern sky, even those immortal emperors of the foreign races were not afraid of death. However, this rule did not apply to the low-level foreign races. The spiritual intelligence of the low-level foreign races was very low. Even if they could speak the human language, they only possessed an extremely low level of thinking ability. They did not know how to be content with pleasure. They retained the wild nature of natural creatures. They only knew about the survival of the fittest. As for killing and life, they almost had no feelings. To them, killing was a very common thing. Even if they die because of it, it did not matter to them. The cultivation base of the fish that Ning Fan revealed was at the void fragmentation realm. However, there were still some harmonious spirit realm and gold core realm heavenly cluster fish that were attacking him. Their faces were not filled with fear but only greed. They wanted to eat Ning Fan's flesh. They wanted to drink Ning Fan's high-grade fish blood. How blind they were. Of course, it was impossible for Ning Fan to stand still and let the enemies bite him to death. If he wanted to sneak into the Heavenly Cluster Fish clan, he would need to show his achievements during the enlightenment ceremony and temporarily join the clan. Killing was unavoidable. In this place, the strong were respected. Devour. Ning Fan opened his mouth and directly swallowed the Heavenly Cluster Fish that were attacking him. Not only did his action not scare the people around him, but it also aroused the ferocity of more heavenly cluster fish. All of them attacked him. Without a doubt, he devoured all of them without missing a single one. When Elder Yu saw this scene, his eyes lit up. Then, he let out a sinister smile. This little fellow seems to be not bad. Even though his bloodline isn't strong, his ferocity is far scarier than the other small fishes. I can take him in as my disciple. When he grows up, I will slaughter him and refine him into jade. At this moment, Ning Fan still did not know that he was being targeted by Elder Yu. Even if he knew, he would not care. A mere peak thought fragmentation realm being was far from being qualified to harm him. Besides, Elder Yu did not only target Ning Fan. Among this group of small fishes, there were also a few good seedlings. Even though their ferocity was not as good as Ning Fan's, their bloodlines were superior. It was hard to say who was better and who was worse. 1 hour later, the formation gate of the slaughterhouse was opened. Only Ning Fan and a few hundred small fishes survived from the slaughterhouse. The rest of them were all killed in the chaotic battle. Even though Ning Fan did not deliberately show off his strength, Elder Yu still regarded him as the strongest among them. You guys are very good. From today onwards, you are the true members of the Heavenly Cluster Fish clan. Next, I will arrange a place for you to stay and teach you the basic cultivation methods of our clan. You can move around freely in Goyu City. However, without my permission, you are not allowed to leave the city within 100 years. Do you understand? Yes. All of the small fishes answered in unison. The foreign races had always been absolutely obedient to their orders. Ning Fan was not one of those obedient heavenly cluster fish. Naturally, he would not obey the other party's orders. If he wanted to leave, he could leave the Heavenly Cluster Fish clan at any time. However, he had not obtained the Een Heavy Wood yet. Thus, he was not in a hurry to leave. He wanted to think of a way to take the Een Heavy Wood away without anyone noticing. Eventually, Ning Fan and the others were arranged to stay in the lower district of Goyu City. If they want to stay in a higher district, they would need battle merits and a high grade. Obviously, these heavenly cluster fish who had just returned to their clan did not have those qualifications. Every one of them had a single fish house. It was a shell-shaped building with simple decorations. After all, it was just a lower district. When Ning Fan arrived at his own fish house, he was slightly surprised. Even though his fish house was also very simple, it was obviously much more spacious compared to the others who had just gained enlightenment at the same time. The interior of the house was even equipped with coral lamps. This was a treatment that the other fish houses did not have. That Elder Yu seems to be giving me special treatment. I wonder if it's kindness or malice. Ning Fan smiled meaningfully. How could he not notice the undisguised greed in Elder Yu's eyes when he was talking to him at the end? Perhaps the other party was plotting something against him. That was why he gave him special treatment. But what does it matter? Would he be afraid of a peak thought fragmentation realm cultivator? Even if he stood still and let the other party kill him, the other party would not be able to kill him. This was the difference between their cultivation levels. However, what I didn't expect is that the cultivation method of this heavenly cluster fish clan seems to be quite unique. The strength of this clan is not considered strong in the border river, but its background is actually quite impressive. The small fishes who had passed the enlightenment ceremony were all rewarded with 3 inherited fish scales. The fish scales contained the inheritance. By consuming and refining the fish scales, one could obtain the inheritance. After using the inherited fish scales, Ning Fan's expression suddenly turned solemn. A layer of dark clouds appeared on his face. The first inherited fish scales were the words and language of the foreign race. The second inherited fish scales were the deep history of the heavenly cluster fish clan. The third inherited fish scales were some basic cultivation methods and abilities of the heavenly cluster fish clan. Cultivators had a photographic memory. With the help of the inherited fish scales, Ning Fan only used half a day to learn all the languages of the heavenly cluster fish clan. In this way, his knowledge of the language of the foreign race was no longer half-baked. He also learned about the deep history of the heavenly cluster fish clan from the second fish scale. It turned out that the true identity of the foreign race that was suppressed by immortal sovereign Zi Do in the border river was actually the descendants of immortal sovereign Zi Wei. Few cultivators in the eastern heaven knew about this. When Ning Fan suddenly heard about it, he was also very shocked. He even explained some of the doubts in his heart. It was no wonder that the abilities of these foreign races were all extraordinary. Many of them even had a strong profound qi. It turned out that they were the inheritances of the Zi Wei star region. Zi Do, Zi Wei, Big Dipper of Zi Wei. In the past, immortal sovereign Zi Do destroyed the Zi Wei and Big Dipper immortal domains. However, he preserved the bloodline of the descendants of his enemies in the illusory world. In front of them were the Big Dipper descendants of the Slaughter Hall, and behind them were the Purple Myrtle descendants of the Border River. Was immortal sovereign Zi Do really that magnanimous to be able to tolerate the existence of these enemies' descendants? Or did he have other plans? For a moment, Ning Fan's eyes looked deep and serene. Naturally, he could not think of an answer. After a long time, he put away his distracting thoughts and swallowed the third inheritance fish scale, obtaining the inheritance. In an instant, the contents of the first volume of the 12 sacred volumes of the heavenly cluster appeared in his memory. These contents only included the heaven cluster fish cultivation method and divine ability before the golden core stage. Ning Fan's did not attach much importance to the gold core realm, but there were 2 places that he was very concerned about. One was the name of the heaven cluster fish clan's cultivation technique. The 12 sacred scrolls of the heavenly cluster. It seemed like what he had obtained was only the first scroll of the 12 sacred scrolls. However, this cultivation technique actually had the word sacred in it. Could this be a first step sage cultivation technique? Or perhaps, the word saint was just an adjective. Another thing that caught his attention was a divine ability recorded in the first volume of the 12 Holy Scrolls. Heaven's Hook Jade. This divine ability was the status symbol of the Heaven Cluster Fish clan. It was also the origin of the name Hook Jade City. What Ning Fan obtained was just the rudimentary method of the Heaven Cluster Fish clan. The content was not too profound. Even so, he was still attracted by the introduction of the Heaven Cluster Fish clan. There were 300 saints serving under immortal sovereign Zi Wei. One of them was called Ancestral Master Langya. He was the ancestor of the Heaven Cluster Fish clan. The ability that Ancestral Master Langya was most proud of in his life was the Heaven Cluster Fish clan. This was one of the few divine abilities that could directly increase the power of a Dao weapon. It could be used to cultivate the Heaven Cluster Fish and embed it into a Dao weapon. If one were to use the Heaven Cluster Fish clan to kill people normally, its power would not be that strong. If it were other divine abilities, Ning Fan probably would not be that interested. However, this Heaven Cluster Fish clan could embed it into a Dao weapon and increase its power. Ning Fan had to admit that it was very attractive. If he cultivates this Heaven Cluster Fish clan, he would certainly be able to increase the power of the ocean-defying sword. A Dao weapon would follow Ning Fan for the rest of his life. Ning Fan was rather indifferent towards magic treasures, but he still attached great importance to Dao weapons. After all, the current ocean-defying sword was already one of Ning Fan's main means of attack. If the power of the ocean-defying sword is further improved. Ning Fan smiled. He was happy to obtain an unexpected gain. However, there were not many people in the Heaven Cluster Fish clan who could cultivate Dao weapons. Most of them only used the Heaven Cluster Fish clan to directly kill their enemies. Thus, the power of their Heaven Cluster Fish clan was naturally not high. It was a disgrace to the reputation of their ancestors. It was not that the Heaven Cluster Fish clan did not want to cultivate Dao weapons. It was just that the path they took was not the normal path of cultivation. After a long period of time, these members of the foreign race had walked further and further away from the cultivation method of the immortal sovereign Zi-Wei. They did not cultivate Dao weapons, sea of consciousness, or take the form of humans. Instead, they began to develop into mutated demons and devil beasts. Fortunately, Ning Fan had not thought of a way to safely take away the Yin heavy wood for the time being. He did not mind staying in the Heaven Cluster Fish clan and learning their ultimate technique that they did not pass on to others. As for the method to secretly take away the Yin heavy wood, he would have to think about it later to see if there was a solution that would satisfy both sides. In order to condense the Heaven Cluster Jade, one would need to absorb the water elemental power between heaven and earth. If it is an ordinary void fragmentation realm cultivator, they would not be able to condense a single Heaven Cluster Jade without spending thousands of years. However, Ning Fan's cultivation base was extraordinary. In just 3 days, he managed to condense a single Heaven Cluster Jade, causing the water elemental power around the city to decrease slightly. The so-called Heaven Cluster Jade was a transparent light talisman in the shape of a magatama. As soon as he condensed it, Ning Fan immediately embedded this light talisman on the sea-defying sword. Not long after that, an extremely small magatama talisman appeared on the body of the sea-defying sword. If one did not look closely, they would not be able to see it at all. Ning Fan scanned the sword with his spirit sense and found out that after embedding the Heaven Cluster Jade, the power of the sea-defying sword had indeed increased a little. Even though it was just a little, what if he embedded thousands of Heaven Cluster Jades on the sword? At the moment when Ning Fan condensed the first Heaven Cluster Jade, Elder Yu, who was in seclusion far away in the Elder's courtyard, suddenly sensed something. He opened his eyes abruptly and was dumbfounded. As a matter of fact, all the fish dwellings of the clan that he had arranged were secretly planted with restrictive spells. Whoever successfully condenses the Heaven Cluster Jade would be able to sense it and let him know. Elder Yu did not expect that Ning Fan would actually successfully condense the first Heaven Cluster Jade after just joining the Heaven Cluster Fish clan for 3 days. Isn't this speed a little too heaven-defying? If Ning Fan has the legendary bloodline of the Heaven Cluster Fish, he might be able to have such a cultivation speed when he attains the void fragmentation realm. However, according to his investigation, Ning Fan's fish blood was obviously very thin. Could it be that I have made a mistake in my judgment? Could it be that this young man has purposely concealed the grade of his bloodline as soon as he entered Guyu City? Humph. That must be the case. He must have found out that I like to kill the outstanding members of my clan for my cultivation before he came to Guyu City. That's why he purposely concealed it. A mere void fragmentation realm cultivator actually managed to hide from my eyes. I'm afraid he must have had some sort of fortuitous encounter. Besides, to have such a temperament, he is much stronger compared to the other low-grade members of the clan. What a pity. What a pity. No matter how many fortuitous encounters you have, you are still just a void fragmentation realm cultivator after all. You should just stay in this Goyu city and cultivate the heaven cluster jade. The more heaven clustered jades you condense, the greater the benefits I will gain when I kill you. I've decided to use you as my main ingredient to advance to the eternal immortal venerable realm. Elder Yu gave a sinister smile. He summoned a few big fish guards and gave them some instructions. Not long after, a large number of rewards were sent to Ning Fan's fish house. All of them were heavenly ingredients and earthly treasures that contained extremely strong water elemental power. They were helpful to the cultivation of the heaven cluster jade. Many of them were extinct spiritual herbs that were hard to find in the eastern heaven. Ning Fan accepted these rewards without batting an eyelid. Of course, he knew that there was a restriction in the fish house which could sense the birth of the heaven cluster jade. However, he did not put this restriction in his heart. When a person's strength is countless times stronger than his enemy, all schemes and tricks would lose their effect. Ning Fan was not afraid of how Elder Yu would scheme against him at all. Because in his eyes, Elder Yu was just a clown. All right. I'll use the enormous resources of your Heaven Cluster Fish clan for my cultivation. Chapter 11:24. Elder Yu gave him quite a lot of good items. Most of them were treasures that could increase the speed of his water element cultivation. 50 stalks of river dew grass. It could increase the speed of his water element cultivation by 50% for a certain period of time. 50 stalks of cold pond reeds. It could increase his water element cultivation speed by 80% for a certain period of time. 10 bottles of sea spirit frost. It could increase his water element cultivation speed by 1-fold for a certain period of time. 5 moon clam pearls. It could increase his water element cultivation speed by 5 times for a certain period of time. Among the pile of treasures, the best one was naturally the moon clam pearls. It was said that the moon clam clan was one of the 11 clans in the world river. They were often hunted by other clans for their pearls. Killing was the nature of the foreign clans. Even the members of the same clan would kill each other, let alone different clans. Hunting other clans for the sake of cultivation was a very common thing in the world river. It was not restrained by any morality. With the good items that Elder Yu gave him, Ning Fan's speed of refining the heaven jade was undoubtedly faster. In just one day, he had already condensed 3 pieces of heaven jade. On another day, the total number of heaven jade had reached 7 pieces. On the third day, Ning Fan's total number of heaven jade had reached 10 pieces. His cultivation had reached a bottleneck and he could no longer increase the number of heaven jade. The cultivation method that he had obtained was only the first volume of the heavenly sacred scroll. Only by obtaining the second volume could he continue to cultivate the next 10 pieces of heaven jade. Freak. This young man is really a freak. In a total of 6 days, he actually finished cultivating all the contents of the first volume of the heavenly sacred scroll. Even many second-step life immortals might not be able to cultivate 10 pieces of heaven jade. This young man actually already has the qualifications to start cultivating the second volume. Through the restrictive spells, Elder Yu grasped Ning Fan's cultivation progress and felt deeply shocked. After that, it was ecstasy. He had found a treasure. He wanted to make Ning Fan stronger. He wanted Ning Fan to cultivate more heaven jade. Then, he would kill Ning Fan and take the fruits of his cultivation. Guards. Give this fish scale of inheritance to fish house number 4926 of the 14th water channel in the lower city. Some servants were summoned by Elder Yu. When they saw that Elder Yu was going to reward Ning Fan again, they all sneered, mocking Ning Fan's fate. That little brat called 4926 probably doesn't know that he's being targeted. Perhaps he's still feeling complacent about obtaining Old Yu's favor. Stupid 4926. It seems like this kid will never have the chance to break through the void fragmentation realm and set foot on the second step in this lifetime. The number that the servants mentioned was the serial number that Ning Fan had obtained after joining the Heaven Cluster Fish clan. Low-level clansmen didn't deserve to have names. This was the rule of all water clansmen. The fact that he had a serial number within 10,000 was enough to show how much Elder Yu valued him. Unfortunately, no one would be envious of Ning Fan being valued by Elder Yu. Because in Guyu City, everyone knew that Elder Yu loved to harm his own people. The better Elder Yu treated someone, the more he would scheme against that person. Within a few days, Ning Fan had been rewarded several times by Elder Yu. This kind of preferential treatment was not luck, but bad luck. The second fish scale of inheritance was sent to Ning Fan's fish house without Ning Fan's request. Ning Fan could not help but laugh. This Elder Yu is really a good person. He did not even need me to ask and he already sent me what I wanted. Since Elder Yu was so cooperative, Ning Fan could not bear to eliminate him. After the matter is over, Ning Fan swallowed the fish scale of inheritance and obtained the second volume of the Heaven Cluster Sacred Scroll. Other than the cultivation methods from the nascent soul realm to the peak thought fragmentation realm, the second volume also included the cultivation methods of the 10 heavenly jade hooks and beyond. Aside from the cultivation methods of the second volume of the heavenly jade hooks were exactly what Ning Fan needed. With the help of the second volume's contents, Ning Fan's total number of heavenly jade hooks reached 13 after 1 day. 10 days later, his total number of heavenly jade hooks reached 49. 1 month later, his total number of heavenly jade hooks reached 100. Once again, he encountered a bottleneck in his cultivation. In just 1 month, he had actually finished cultivating all the contents of the second volume of the heavenly jade hooks. 1 month. This kid used only 1 month to finish cultivating all the contents of the second volume of the heavenly jade hooks. Elder Yu was so excited that he did not know what to say. One should know that in the entire Heaven Cluster Fish clan, there were not many people who could finish cultivating all the contents of the second volume of the heavenly jade hooks. Among those who had more than 100 heavenly jade hooks, there were only 60 to 70 of them in the entire clan. Moreover, all of them were experts above the true immortal realm. They had to cultivate for hundreds of thousands of years to reach their current level. Ning Fan, on the other hand, only used slightly more than 1 month to finish cultivating what others would take hundreds of thousands of years to do. Perhaps only the legendary sacred blood heavenly fish could match his speed. Could it be? Could it be? Even though this kid's cultivation base is low, he is the sacred blood heavenly fish that only appears once in tens of millions of years. If that's the case, if I kill him, won't I have a chance to seize his bloodline and evolve into the sacred blood heavenly fish? Nurture him. I must nurture him even more before devouring him. Someone, give this fish scale of inheritance to 4926. By the way, he seems to be running out of spiritual herbs. Give him another batch. No. No. You gave him the wrong one. This time, I won't give you the same spiritual herbs as last time. The third volume is much more difficult to cultivate. It requires higher grade spiritual herbs to speed up the process. Come here. Take my badge and go to the clan vault to get a batch of 5 million years old spiritual herbs. There's no need to inform the 3 immortal venerables. They are busy cultivating. Don't disturb them. What a joke. Elder Yu did not want the immortal venerables in the clan to know that he was scheming against a sacred blood heavenly fish. That was his personal prey. If the 3 immortal venerables knew about this, they would definitely snatch the prey from him. There would be no chance for him. Not long after that, under Ning Fan's half-smile, another group of attendants came to him and brought him cultivation materials. Firstly, it was the fish scale of inheritance that contained the contents of the third volume of the heavenly sacred scroll. Secondly, it was a large batch of higher grade heavenly and earthly treasures. Moon clam pearls, 50 of them. They can increase one's cultivation speed of the water element by 5 times for a certain period of time. Leech pearls, 50 of them. They can increase one's cultivation speed by 6 times. Dragon breath pearls, 20 of them. They can increase one's cultivation speed by 7 times. Immortal Venerable Mermaid's tears, one of them can increase one's cultivation speed by 8 times. The items that Elder Yu gave him this time were obviously better than the previous ones. However, Ning Fan's focus was not on those items but the mermaid's tears. Mermaid's tears. There was a legend in ancient times that the tears of mermaids could turn into pearls. It turned out to be true. However, I didn't expect that mermaids' tears could actually increase one's cultivation speed of the water element to such a high degree. Even though they were merely at the level of an immortal venerable, they could increase one's cultivation speed by 8 times, Ning Fan muttered to himself. There seems to be an immortal emperor mermaid imprisoned in my profound Een world. I wonder if her tears will turn into pearls if I make that woman cry. If that's the case, I can probably mass-produce mermaids' tears at the level of an immortal emperor. As soon as this joking thought appeared, Ning Fan threw it to the back of his mind. It was because he felt that it was very easy to cultivate the Heaven Hook Jade. There was no need to do such a boring experiment that would make a woman cry. However, who would have thought that it would become very difficult to cultivate the 3rd volume of the Heaven Hook Jade? His progress was much slower than before. Ning Fan used the Moon Clam Pearl to assist his cultivation. He ate 5 pearls in a day but he did not manage to cultivate a single Heaven Hook Jade. Using the Moon Clam Pearl which increased his cultivation speed by 5 times, Ning Fan used 4 days to cultivate a single Heaven Hook Jade. Then, it was the Leech Pearl. It took Ning Fan 3.5 days to cultivate another Heaven Hook Jade. After that, it was the Dragon Breath Pearl. However, it also took him 3 days to cultivate a single Heaven Hook Jade. Slow. It's too slow. Previously, when he cultivated the Heaven Hook Jade, he could cultivate a few Heaven Hook Jade in a day. Why did his cultivation speed become so much slower when he reached the 3rd volume? Ning Fan was very dissatisfied with his current cultivation speed. However, he did not know that the cultivation speed he displayed had already shocked Elder Yu to the point where he could not be any more shocked. After seeing that Ning Fan could still maintain a cultivation speed of 1 Heaven Hook Jade every few days after cultivating the 3rd volume, Elder Yu could no longer find any adjectives to describe Ning Fan's monstrous level. One has to know that the first 2 volumes of the Heavenly Sacred Scroll were just basic cultivation methods. As long as one cultivates them step by step, anyone would be able to cultivate them successfully. The only difference was the amount of time required. However, from the 3rd volume onwards, the cultivation of the Heavenly Sacred Scroll would test a cultivator's comprehension ability. Usually, only 1 or 2 people would be able to cultivate it successfully among 100 people. The rest were limited by their comprehension ability and did not even have the qualifications to cultivate it. Even if they were able to cultivate it, their cultivation speed would not be too fast. From the 3rd volume onwards, the cultivation speed of the Heaven Hook Jade was no longer related to the grade of one's bloodline. The more important factor was the cultivator's comprehension ability. Even the legendary Heavenly Sacred Blood Fish would require several months or even years to cultivate a single Heaven Hook Jade after reaching the 3rd volume. For someone like Elder Yu, who had the grade of his bloodline and aptitude, he could only cultivate a single Heaven Hook Jade every 10,000 years through the 3rd volume. He had lived for several million years but he still had not finished cultivating the 3rd volume. It showed how difficult it was to cultivate this volume. However, what kind of cultivation speed did Ning Fan have? When he reached the 3rd volume, he could actually maintain a cultivation speed of 1 Heaven Hook Jade every few days. This was already more monstrous and heaven-defying than the Heavenly Sacred Blood Fish. Putting aside the grade of his bloodline, this young man's comprehension ability was probably unprecedented in the history of the Heavenly Sacred Blood Fish. According to this young man's cultivation speed, if there are sufficient spiritual herbs, he will most likely be able to finish cultivating the third volume within 10 years. Even if there are no spiritual herbs, he can also finish cultivating the third volume within 100 years. Even though my clan's vault is rich, my authority is very limited. It's impossible for me to give him too many precious spiritual herbs to cultivate the third volume. Another thing is, if I give him too many precious spiritual herbs, it will definitely attract the attention of the 3 immortal venerables in my clan. When that time comes, I won't be able to monopolize this young man. Yes, I should plan slowly. I will give this young man 100 years to slowly cultivate the third volume. After 100 years, I will kill this young man and seize his bloodline. Then, I will officially break through the bottleneck of the immortal venerable realm. Ha ha ha. In another 100 years, I will be able to become an immortal venerable. Ha ha ha. Ning Fan did not know how overjoyed Elder Yu was at the moment. Even if he knew, he would not be concerned. The third volume contained all the methods to cultivate up to 1,000 pieces of heaven hook jade. According to Ning Fan's current cultivation speed, he estimated that he would need at least 6 to 7 years to finish cultivating the third volume. 6 to 7 years. Sorry, I don't have that much time to stay in Hooking Jade City now. Who knows when those immortal emperors of the alien races will come out of the water again to seek revenge on me. Ning Fan decided to use the one and only mermaid's tear to assist his cultivation. This was the pearl tear of an immortal venerable mermaid. Even though its effect on improving water element cultivation was stronger than the dragon breath pearl, there was a limit to its effect. Even after using this mermaid's tear, Ning Fan's cultivation speed did not increase by much. Originally, he wanted to wait and see if Elder Yu would give him some better cultivation materials. Unfortunately, after this batch of materials, Elder Yu did not give him any more precious spiritual herbs. Even if he did, he only gave him some ordinary spiritual herbs. It seems like I can't just rely on the heavenly sacred blood fish clan to provide me with resources for my cultivation. Ning Fan suddenly closed his eyes and pretended to be asleep. It seemed like he had fallen asleep due to exhaustion from cultivation. In fact, Ning Fan's primordial spirit left his body and secretly flew into the profound Yin world without Elder Yu's detection. He did not have much time to waste at the bottom of the Realm River. As such, he needed better things to help him increase his cultivation speed and complete the third volume as soon as possible. In the end, he still set his sights on a floor. At this moment, a floor was imprisoned in a solitary cell in the Repentance Palace. Her limbs were bound by the chains of enchantment and her cultivation base was sealed. She could not move at all. She suppressed the intolerable torture of the enchantment technique in her body. Her fair face was filled with an abnormal redness. She kept twisting her fishtail, opening and closing her mouth, exhaling hot air and letting out a moan from time to time. Uncomfortable. It's too uncomfortable. That damned little thief Ning Fan. How dare he humiliate me like this? If I let him escape alive, I will definitely teach him a lesson. With a creak, the door of the cell opened. Ning Fan's primordial spirit flew into the cell and stopped in front of a floor. Even though a floor had never seen Ning Fan's primordial spirit before, how could she not recognize him? She suppressed her moan and scolded him. "Es despicable. You, humiliated, woman. What kind of man are you? Despicable. You and the other members of the water race colluded with my companions and lured me into a trap. You even gathered 16 immortal emperors of the water race and more than 1,000 experts of the water race to besiege me. I didn't even call you despicable, but you called me despicable first. Hee hee. If being a little cruel to the enemy is despicable, then I am despicable. So what? Besides, what kind of woman are you? I'm just humiliating a fish. You don't even have legs. I won't even know where to start if you become my cauldron. You are the fish. You are the cauldron. I am a noble mermaid. I am an existence that is higher than the descendants of Zido. Aflor was so angry that she almost choked. However, her mind became clearer and her tongue became sharper. How could she not be angry? Ning Fan actually compared me to a lowly fish and even called me a cauldron. Damn it. This man is too hateful. I really want to cut him into pieces. Seeing that Aflor was angry, Ning Fan revealed a satisfied smile. If it were any other time, he would naturally disdain to talk nonsense with his enemies. However, he came here today specifically to bully Aflor. Thus, he was not stingy with his words. He wanted to humiliate and anger her. It would be best if she could be angered to tears. If she cries, wouldn't there be mermaid tears? Unfortunately, how could a dignified immortal emperor cry so easily? Of course, it was impossible for her to shed tears just because of a few words from Ning Fan. Ning Fan continued to provoke Aflor with his words. Even though she was angry, she simply closed her eyes. Out of sight, out of mind, she completely ignored this annoying Ning Fan. She did not look like she was going to cry at all. Seeing that, Ning Fan shook his head helplessly. It seemed like it was impossible to make Aflor cry using civilized methods. In that case, he could only use uncivilized methods to make her cry. Of course, if this woman is willing to cry on her own accord and give him some mermaid tears, he would also be happy to save himself the trouble. Even though he knew that the chances were slim, he still planned to discuss it with Aflor. Your name is Aflor, right? After I learned the language of the water race, I found out that the original meaning of Aflor is the most beautiful woman in the water realm. It's a very beautiful name. Let me introduce myself. My name is Ning Fan. I want to discuss something with you. There was no response. However, Aflor's heart was frightened by Ning Fan's words. What nonsense is this man talking about? How does he know the meaning of my name? He learned the language of the water race. How is that possible? Who taught him that? One should know that the water race would rather die than impart their language to the cultivators of the eastern heaven. Doing so is equivalent to abandoning their honor. But why does this man know the language of the water race? Could it be that there is actually a traitor among the water race? It's like this. I need some mermaid tears for my cultivation. You are an immortal emperor. Your tears should be very helpful for the cultivation of the water element. Even though we are enemies, I am still willing to give you a choice. Are you willing to cry some tears for me or force me to make you cry? There was still no response. However, Aflor suddenly opened her eyes and examined Ning Fan in disbelief. When she examined him, she actually sensed the Heaven Hook Jade Chi of the Heaven Cluster Fish clan from him. All of a sudden, she understood why Ning Fan wanted to ask for the mermaid tears from her. It was actually to cultivate the Heaven Hook Jade. How did you cultivate the Heaven Hook Jade? You should know that the water race would rather die than impart the abilities of our ancestors to our enemies. Even though the Heaven Cluster Fish clan is weak, it is impossible for us to do such a thing that forgets our ancestors. Could it be that the Heaven Cluster Fish clan has actually betrayed the oath of their ancestors? You don't have to care about how I cultivated the Heaven Hook Jade. All you need to do is cry and give me some mermaid tears. Impossible. I am a noble mermaid. It is impossible for me to help my enemies. You can forget about getting my tears. Aflor said stubbornly. Sure enough, it's useless to discuss it, huh? It seems like I can only take it myself. Ning Fan narrowed his eyes and a cold light flashed across them. Even if you torture me, I won't shed a single tear for you. If you don't believe me, you can try it. Aflor sneered with disdain. There were two things about the mermaid race that were praised by the world the most. Firstly, tears could turn into pearls. Secondly, mermaids had strong bones. Mermaids bleed but not shed tears. It was extremely difficult to obtain their tears. Even if Ning Fan were to kill her by 1,000 cuts and cut her into sashimi today, she was confident that she would not shed a single tear. I've heard of the legends of mermaids. If it's just pain, it probably won't make you cry. Since that's the case. Ning Fan's primordial spirit flew closer and slowly touched the back of Aflor's hand with his small hand. After being touched by Ning Fan, Aflor's face instantly turned pale. She knew how Ning Fan was going to get her tears. He didn't intend to torture her, but to humiliate her body. As noble as she was, she had never been touched by a man like this before. Even though Ning Fan was in his primordial spirit form, the feeling of touch was different from that of a real human body. She could still feel a numbing sensation on the back of her fair hand. She suddenly felt a sense of humiliation from being violated. Damn it! Damn it! I'm a noble mermaid and the goddess of the mermaid race. How can I be violated by a despicable ant of the eastern heaven in this place? How dare you? How dare you? You're not allowed to touch me. Take your dirty hands away. Otherwise, I'll definitely tear you into pieces. It's just the back of your hand, but you actually have such a strong resistance. Could it be that you've never touched a man before? Ning Fan smiled. Humph. I'm a noble mermaid. I know etiquette, justice, integrity, and shame. Unlike you lowly women of the eastern heaven, I won't touch a man casually. It's only natural for me to feel conflicted. Aflor said proudly. Won't touch a man casually, huh? Then, what's touching you now? Is it a ghost? Ning Fan's primordial spirit slowly stroked Aflor's hand. It was truly a pair of flawless hands. Every single one of her fingers had been touched by Ning Fan before. Aflor felt a great sense of shame. She was originally a noble mermaid, but now, she had become a plaything in Ning Fan's hands. Her purity was being tarnished bit by bit. Stop touching me. What will make you stop? After being imprisoned by Ning Fan, this was the first time Aflor actually gave in. It was just because she was not willing to let Ning Fan touch her skin, even if it was just her palm. It's very simple. As long as you cry and give me some mermaid tears to cultivate, I won't humiliate you anymore. I can even slightly improve your life in this prison. Impossible. You're the descendant of Zido. It's impossible for me to give you my tears. You're delusional. Aflor was unexpectedly stubborn in the face of her refusal to help her enemy. What a stubborn woman. Ning Fan's eyes turned cold. His primordial spirit began to touch Aflor's arm with its small hand. Aflor gently sucked in a breath of cold air. As Ning Fan touched her arm, that numb feeling moved up along her arm bit by bit. She was already under Ning Fan's bewitching technique. Now that Ning Fan touched her arm, her chi naturally became chaotic and she immediately let out soft gasps. This is just your arm. Are you really not going to give me your tears? You are my enemy. Do you know that I will never show mercy to my enemies? Don't talk nonsense. I won't give you my tears. Ah. Where are you touching? You can't touch here, still not crying. I'm going to lift the shell on your chest. Don't you dare. If you dare to lift it. I will. Ah. You actually dare to lift it. Don't pinch it. Don't pinch it. I'm going to kill you. Kill you. Take your dirty hands away from my face. If you touch my lips again, I'll bite off your fingers. Don't touch the back of my ears. This is a forbidden area. Half an hour later. You're actually still not giving in. I have to admit that I'm a little impressed by you. Unfortunately, we are enemies. It's impossible for me to show mercy to my enemies. Are you really not going to give me some tears? Ah. Ah. So comfortable. So comfortable. Listening to Aflor's intoxicated moans, Ning Fan felt like his head was going to explode. This damned woman. Why is she getting more and more used to it? Doesn't she have any awareness of being a prisoner? It turned out that when Aflor saw that she could not escape from Ning Fan's humiliation, she simply let go of her body and let Ning Fan play with her. Gradually, she began to enjoy the pleasure. The numbing touch all over her body seemed to have become the most wonderful touch in the world. It turns out that there is such pleasure between a man and a woman. Damn it. I actually didn't know about it before. This was a feeling that she had never experienced before. It was actually so wonderful. It was even more impossible to make her surrender with such a wonderful touch. It's fine if you kill me. It's fine if you humiliate my body. For the glory of my ancestors, I will definitely not give the precious mermaid tears to the last descendant of the Purple Battle Team. How about it? You can't do anything to me now, right? When I let go of the last trace of shame in my heart, I am already invincible and have no weakness at all. Ah. Ah. It's so comfortable. Stupid descendant of the Purple Battle Team. Your touch makes me feel so comfortable. Come on. Give me something more exciting to make me feel even more comfortable. Could it be that you only know how to use your hands? However, even if I feel more comfortable, I won't give you any tears. Hee hee. Stupid descendant of the Purple Battle Team. You better give up. You can forget about getting any benefits from me. Aflor moaned and said complacently. Her body twisted from time to time to cater to Ning Fan's touch. Are you sure you want something more exciting? Ning Fan's eyes turned gloomy. His primordial spirit suddenly stopped touching Aflor. The happier she was, the more he could not make her surrender at all. What was the use of touching her again? Could it be that I really want something more exciting? Ning Fan began to ponder. Seeing Ning Fan admit defeat and stop humiliating her body, Aflor became even more complacent. She thought that she had forced him into a corner. Hee hee. No matter how exciting your technique is, you won't be able to make me cry. Why bother? Aflor said sarcastically. Her seductive eyes stared at Ning Fan. Her beauty was beyond compare. She was indeed worthy of being called the most beautiful person under the water. She did have her own beauty. However, her unparalleled beauty coupled with her sarcastic smile made Ning Fan feel uncomfortable no matter how he looked at her. Ning Fan did not feel like talking nonsense with Aflor. He originally wanted to leave some leeway for this woman. However, it seemed like she had mistaken his soft-heartedness as incompetence. All of a sudden, Ning Fan's primordial spirit opened its small mouth and directly bit the softness in front of it. Just as Aflor was feeling complacent, she suddenly felt a wet and warm sensation on her chest. Her expression immediately changed and she felt incomparably ashamed. It turned out that Ning Fan already disdained to touch her. How dare he? You're not allowed to suck. You can't. Ah. Ah. Let go of my mouth. Don't. Don't. If you continue to suck here, you will be my son. Ning Fan's eyes turned even gloomier. This Aflor's mouth really stinks. She deserves to be punished. Ah. How dare you lick here? That's my navel. Ah. You're not allowed to lick my tail. It's too sensitive. Don't. I beg you. I beg you. Don't. Don't. Ah. Not long after that, an incomparably comfortable moan echoed throughout the Repentance Palace. Aflor felt as if she had entered the clouds and was gasping for breath. Aflor who had reached her peak fell into a wonderful aftertaste. Her eyes were filled with tears of satisfaction. Those teardrops fell to the ground, turning into translucent pearls of chaotic origin, merman tears. Moreover, they were not ordinary mermaid tears. These were the tears of a half-step quasi-saint. Moreover, because they were tears of lust, they were rather special. Ning Fan picked up one of the tears and felt it. He was instantly overjoyed. If his senses were not wrong, this mermaid's tear could at least increase his cultivation speed in the water element by several hundred times. It was far superior to the immortal venerable mermaid's tear in the past. He. Seeing that your will is as firm as steel, I originally gave up on obtaining the mermaid's tear from you. Unexpectedly, you actually shed tears after reaching your peak. Ning Fan could not help but sigh at the wonders of creation. He had a lot of women. Some of them would cry for no reason after reaching their peak. That was not because they were sad. Instead, it was a personal physiological reaction. Unexpectedly, this mermaid named a floor in front of him actually had such a physiological reaction. After being served by his tongue, she actually reached her peak and shed 4 drops of mermaid tears. Even though she said that she would not give them to him, her body was very generous. Shed tears? Are you stupid? How can I possibly shed tears? I don't even have the time to feel good. How can I possibly? A floor opened her beautiful eyes in a mocking manner and giggled. Her beautiful eyes carried lingering charm. They were so moist and soft that water could drip from them. It was indescribably alluring. However, when she saw the mermaid's tear in Ning Fan's hand, she could no longer laugh. She shed tears. Why would she shed tears? Her Tao heart was as hard as iron. No amount of punishment could make her yield and make her feel pain. It was impossible for her to shed tears. But why? Why? I'll accept your tears. When these 4 drops of mermaid's tears are used up, I will come again. As soon as he finished speaking, Ning Fan left with satisfaction. A floor was the only one left in the prison cell. Her face was flushed red as she stood rooted to the ground. She felt extremely ashamed and resentful. She had already put down her dignity and integrity, but she still shed tears. Ning Fan had taken advantage of her. Why? Why? If that was the case, wouldn't her painstakingly enduring Ning Fan's toying become a joke? Ning Fan. Ning Fan. Ning Fan. I'm going to kill you. Kill you. I won't allow you to use my tears to cultivate. Ah. I'm so angry. Ning Fan ignored a floor's anger. He thought that he had already tolerated this enemy very much. Now that he had obtained the mermaid's tears, his mood was extremely good. Thus, he did not care about a floor's angry words. The mermaid's tears he obtained were not ordinary ones. They could actually increase one's water element cultivation speed by several hundred times. This was actually very rare at the bottom of the world river. A floor's half-step quasi-sage realm cultivation base was only one of the reasons why the medicinal power of these mermaids' tears was so strong. Another reason was that these mermaids' tears were not ordinary tears. They were the lover's tears that female mermaids shed when they reached the peak of happiness. That was why their medicinal power was extraordinarily strong. If they were just ordinary tears, it would be impossible for them to have such a strong medicinal power. Even the tears that a floor shed could only increase one's water element cultivation speed by 10 to 20 times. These 4 drops of lover's tears were extremely rare. However, Ning Fan did not know the difference between them. He only knew that he could begin cultivating the Heaven Hook Jade again after obtaining the mermaid's tears. In the past, he could only cultivate 1 Heaven Hook Jade after a few days. Now, after using a floor's tears, he actually cultivated 14 Heaven Hook Jade in just 1 day. On the 2nd day, the total number of Heaven Hook Jade reached 133. On the 3rd day, 147. On the 4th day, 163. Lover's tears were not very durable. 1 drop would need to be used in a day. As for the 4 drops, it only took him 4 days to use them all up. Ning Fan had no choice but to send his primordial spirit out of his body again and enter the profound Yin world, arriving at a floor's prison cell. When he saw that a floor's body had become thin and she had already fainted for a few days, he was shocked. For some unknown reason, this woman actually lost her nourishment and her qi and blood were so weak that she could not wake up. Could it be that this woman actually used up a large amount of qi and blood to provide me with 4 drops of tears? No wonder the medicinal power of the 4 drops of mermaid's tears was so strong. All of a sudden, Ning Fan felt a little guilty. Of course, it was just a little. A floor was his enemy. He did not feel that there was anything wrong with being ruthless to his enemies. Old Devil had taught him to be ruthless to his enemies. That was what he had always done, but, this woman, Ning Fan frowned. If he does not save a floor, given her heterogeneous true spirit, she might not die but her cultivation base would definitely fall and her foundation would be damaged. After a brief moment of hesitation, Ning Fan decided to use some pills to save a floor. After a floor's complexion regained its rosy color, Ning Fan placed her on the stone bed in the prison cell. He sighed with a headache. I should let this mermaid rest today. When her qi and blood recover, I will come and take the mermaid's tears. Besides, even if I take the mermaid's tears in the future, should nourish this woman first so that her qi and blood will not be depleted after the deed is done. Ning Fan pondered and left the prison cell. The moment his primordial spirit flew out of the prison cell, a floor opened her eyes weakly. There was a hint of confusion in her eyes. She did not understand. Why did the descendant of Zido who was known for being despicable and shameless want to save her? If her cultivation base falls, wouldn't it be easier for him to control her? I don't understand. I'm so sleepy. Forget it. I'll sleep first. Sigh. This damned life as a prisoner. Chapter 1125. Ning Fan did not delay his cultivation for too long. With Afro's strong physique, she recovered in just a few days. Ning Fan who sensed it entered the profound Yin world again to ask Afro for the mermaid's tears. Of course, Afro was unwilling to give it to him. However, this time, she no longer insulted Ning Fan and the hostility on her face lessened a little. I don't know where you learned the language of the Water Clan and the heavenly gouging jade ability. But since you've learned them, I'm sure you already know the true identity of the Water Clan. I'm an immortal cultivator Ziwei. I have an irreconcilable grudge against you, immortal cultivator Zido. The honor of my clan won't allow me to give my precious mermaid's tears to my enemy. Afro said stubbornly. So, you still intend to let me take my tears myself this time, right? Humph. This time, no matter how you humiliate me, I won't shed my tears. I was careless the last time. I will be more careful this time. Is that so? If that's the case, don't blame me for being rude to you. However, before I humiliate you again, you have to eat these pills first. What kind of pills are these? I won't eat them. There must be something wrong with them. You definitely want to harm me with them. Afro said angrily. Putting aside the fact that Ning Fan had humiliated her in every possible way, he even took out a pill to trick her today. How could she tolerate this? Ning Fan was too lazy to explain to this suspicious mermaid about the quality of the pills. These pills were used to strengthen one's foundation. They were used to prevent Afro from becoming weak and injured after her tears are taken away. However, if Aphrodite insisted on judging him with malice, he would not bother to explain himself to her. One of his primordial spirit hands pinched open Aphrodite's chin, while the other hand forced the pill into her mouth. Woo! 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 Afro wanted to struggle and resist but Ning Fan still forced her to swallow the pills. All of a sudden, Afro felt extremely humiliated. She closed her eyes in agony, waiting for the pills to take effect. She did not know whether these pills were poison or bewitching pills or some other despicable effect to control women. Currently, her spirit sense was locked by Ning Fan's bewitching technique and she could not sense anything. When she thought that she might become Ning Fan's slave after the pills dissolved, she was in so much pain that she wished she was dead. It wasn't until the medicinal power spread through her body that Aphrodite discovered to her surprise that these pills weren't harmful, but nourishing things. You. Why did you? You are trying to win my heart. Do you think I will yield if you treat me nicely? Let me tell you, this is impossible. The noble merfolk will not succumb to the threats of the enemy, nor will they succumb to the temptation of benefits. Aphro said proudly. But that pride soon turned into soft moans under Ning Fan's teasing. 1 hour later, Ning Fan sent Aphrodite to the top of the clouds with his fingers, lips, and tongue. Once again, Aphrodite shed her lover's tears. It was probably because she had adapted to Ning Fan's teasing this time that she felt more comfortable than the last time. 5 drops of tears fell from her eyes, which was more than the last time. Since Ning Fan had fed her the origin nurturing pill, she did not feel weak after crying. She just felt weak and powerless like an ordinary woman after they had reached their peak. Why? I'm clearly controlling it, why am I still crying? Aphrodite was enjoying the wonderful aftertaste while her heart was filled with unwillingness, and her delicate breathing was like that of an orchid. Ning Fan did not answer her question. He did not have the obligation to teach her about physiology. Little mermaid, have a good rest. I will come back 5 days later. You are the little mermaid. I am a mermaid. A mermaid. Aphro cursed at Ning Fan's back. Then, she felt even more humiliated when she thought that Ning Fan would come back 5 days later. When will this damned life as a prisoner come to an end? With the help of Aphro's mermaid tears, Ning Fan's cultivation progressed at lightning speed. 5 days later, the number of heaven gajods he had reached 236. He entered the mystic Een world again. No one knew what he did with Aphrodite in the mystic Een world. However, this time, he brought out 6 drops of mermaid's tears. Time passed slowly. 2 months passed in the blink of an eye. Ning Fan's number of heaven gajods reached a bottleneck again. It had reached a terrifying 1,000 pieces. He had finally finished cultivating the 3rd volume of the heavenly sacred scroll. It has only been 2 months and this young man has actually finished cultivating the 3rd volume, which I couldn't even finish in a few million years. Elder Yu's heart was filled with a strong sense of defeat. But more than that, he was excited. As long as he kills Ning Fan and takes away the fruits of his cultivation, he would be the final winner instead of the insignificant void fragmentation realm Ning Fan. At first, I thought that he would need 100 years to finish cultivating the 3rd volume without the precious spiritual herbs that I provided. I didn't expect him to be so fast. It's a pity that I only have the first 3 volumes of the heavenly sacred scroll. I don't have the 4th volume. Otherwise, I can give him the 4th volume and let him continue cultivating it. After that, I will deal with him. If I recklessly ask the 3 immortal venerables in my clan for the 4th volume, it will certainly attract their attention. At that time, I won't be able to enjoy this young man alone. For the entire night, Elder Yu was thinking about this matter. After thinking about it for a few days, he finally made up his mind to kill Ning Fan and stop feeding him. Someone, summon the 4926 to the Elder's courtyard. As soon as he gave the order, the attendants of the Elder's courtyard understood that Elder Yu was going to kill Ning Fan. No one would sympathize with Ning Fan. This was the Water Clan world where the strong preyed on the weak. The weak should be eaten by the strong. Very soon, the attendants brought Ning Fan to the Elder's courtyard and left. In the vast water palace, only Elder Yu sat on the main seat. Below him was Ning Fan, who had turned into his fish body with a smile on his face. Seeing that Ning Fan was still able to smile in such a critical moment, Elder Yu had a bad feeling. That feeling was as if something was out of his control. No. It's impossible. No, that's impossible. He must be thinking too much. The young man is just an insignificant first-step void fragmentation realm cultivator, while I am the fourth expert of the heavenly sacred fish clan, a dignified peak thought fragmentation realm being. It's impossible for this young man to escape from my control. You should have heard of my evil reputation. Elder Yu said bluntly. I have indeed heard of it. You should also know that the reason why I asked you to come here today is to eat you with a secret technique. As he spoke, Elder Yu's eyes flashed with ferocity. I do know. Don't blame me for being ruthless. The Z-Way world where my ancestors lived is a place where the strong survive and the weak perish. The strong hunt the weak. It's the tradition of our ancestors. If you're weak, you deserve to be eaten by me. If you're stronger than me, I'm naturally willing to be eaten by you. Today, I must eat you. I hope that you will cooperate with me. If you resist, the benefits that I will obtain will be lesser. Since you're going to die either way, why don't you give up resisting and help me achieve my goal? If you cooperate, I can let your soul return to samsara. If you resist, I will destroy your soul and you will never be able to reincarnate. After saying so much, Elder Yu was obviously trying to force Ning Fan to be eaten by him willingly. Ning Fan did not pay attention to Elder Yu's long-winded speech. He just stared at Elder Yu calmly. His stare made Elder Yu's scalp go numb. He felt a little uneasy, but he could not understand why. After a long time, Ning Fan opened his mouth again. If I'm stronger than you, I can also eat you, right? That's right. The heaven Gujus of my clan can increase their cultivation realm by devouring each other. Even the density of their bloodline can be slightly increased by devouring each other. If you have the ability, you can naturally eat me too. However, you don't have that ability. You're just a small void fragmentation realm cultivator while I'm a high and mighty thought fragmentation realm cultivator. You. Who told you that I'm just a void fragmentation realm cultivator? Under Ning Fan's control, the great momentum of heaven and earth suddenly sealed all the space in the courtyard of the elders. No chi could leak out from within. Then, under Elder Yu's terrified gaze, Ning Fan turned from a large fish into a young man in white robes in a flash of light. As he stood there, it was as if he was the sky of this place. The monstrous baleful chi around his body almost made Elder Yu stop breathing. A second ago, he was still arrogant and conceited. In the next second, he was trembling like a sieve, looking at Ning Fan as if he was some kind of peerless ferocious beast. Human cultivator. You're not a cultivator of my clan. You're a cultivator of the Eastern Heaven. How dare you sneak into my clan and secretly learn my clan's ultimate technique? You're an ancient immortal revered. No. Even immortal emperors have killed many of such baleful chi. I've only heard of such a heaven-defying immortal revered from the Eastern Heaven. You're the white-robed Yama, who captured 7 dragon horse immortal emperors and Lord Aphrodite alive. White-robed Yama was the title given to Ning Fan by the foreign races of the 11 Paths after he committed a series of major crimes. This title had already spread across the 11 Paths. Rumor has it that the white-robed Yama cultivated a type of cross-shaped halo. Once the halo is activated, it could kill immortal emperors. It was also rumored that the white-robed Yama had a lot of innate magic treasures. He had 3 mid-grade innate magic treasures. If an immortal emperor of the Water Clan is alone or encounters the white-robed Yama in groups of 2 or 3, they must flee. They must not fight against him. Otherwise, it would be difficult for them to escape death. Of course, Elder Yu had heard of Ning Fan's ferocious name. However, he had never imagined that the infamous King Yama would appear in front of him in such a terrifying manner. This feeling was like a beautiful dream that he had imagined for many days turning into the most terrifying nightmare in an instant. Ning Fan's eyes merely moved a little. Elder Yu thought that Ning Fan was going to kill him. He was instantly shocked and attacked in a panic. Heaven go you! All of a sudden, Elder Yu unleashed all of his cultivation base, manifesting hundreds of hooking jade talismans that he had painstakingly cultivated for his entire life and shot them at Ning Fan. The power of these hooking jade talismans was extraordinary. When they landed on Ning Fan's body in a concentrated manner, they could not even leave a scratch on his physical body. Ning Fan's physical body was just too strong. It was not something that these hooking jade talismans could harm. Upon seeing this, how could Elder Yu not know that the gap between him and Ning Fan was just too huge? He could not even hurt Ning Fan at all. Without any hesitation, he directly broke the door and tried to escape from the Elder's courtyard. However, it was already too late. He was blocked by layers of great force waves and could not escape. Spare me. Elder Yu chose to surrender when he had nowhere to run. He knelt in front of Ning Fan with his back straight. He was actually different from those low-grade heaven cluster fishes that were not afraid of death. He was quite flexible. Ning Fan frowned. Perhaps it was because he had spent too much time with Aphrodite, who would rather die than submit. He actually felt a little displeased when he saw her kneeling down and submitting to him. Of course, he did not mind taking this opportunity to make Elder Yu his confidant. With this person's help, it would be more convenient for him to cultivate in the Goyu city. So, why not? However, there must be a precondition. Since Aphrodite did not violate this bottom line, Ning Fan was still very polite to her even though he maintained his hostility towards her. However, he did not know if this Elder Yu had violated this bottom line or not. Have you eaten human flesh before? Do you think it tastes terrible? Ning Fan suddenly asked. No. It's not terrible. In fact, it's very delicious. Those travelers who pass by are simply a heaven-sent delicacy. Does my lord want to eat human flesh? I still have some dried meat made from human flesh in my storage. I have been keeping it for a long time. At this moment, in order to survive, Elder Yu was even willing to take out the dried meat that he had kept for many years for Ning Fan to eat. However, before he could finish his words, he saw killing intent flashing in Ning Fan's eyes. He no longer had the chance to finish his words. A cold light flashed. Elder Yu's large fish head was cut off by a sea-defying sword that was inlaid with 1,000 pieces of heaven Goyu. The wind of the sword blew past, carrying the salty smell of sea waves. At the moment when the sea-defying sword cut off Elder Yu's head, the power of the heaven Goyu wreaked havoc inside Elder Yu's body, directly killing his demon soul inside his body. It killed him with a single slash and even severed the life force of his demon soul. With the power of the sea-defying sword, it was not strange for it to kill a peak thought fragmentation realm cultivator. However, Ning Fan still keenly sensed that this sword was different from before. The power of the sea-defying sword that was inlaid with 1,000 pieces of heaven Goyu was more than 2 times stronger than before. The difference might not be obvious when killing a peak thought fragmentation realm cultivator. However, if it is a battle between immortal emperors, the effect would certainly be extremely obvious. Even though I wanted to spare your life, you just had to eat those travelers of the 4 heavens. If I let you live, I won't be able to give an explanation to my subordinates who died in the Boundary River. This is my bottom line. Since you have crossed it, it's better for you to die. After killing Elder Yu, Ning Fan devoured the hundreds of pieces of heaven Goyu that Elder Yu cultivated using the cultivation method of the Heavenly Cluster Sacred Scroll. When the Heavenly Cluster fishes devoured the heaven Goyu of their own clan, the benefits were not equal. If a person with low attainment in the heaven Goyu devoured someone with high attainment, the benefits would be slightly greater. After devouring a few hundred pieces of the opponent's heaven Goyu, they would roughly be able to produce 1 to 200 pieces of heaven Goyu. However, if a person with high attainment devours a person with low attainment, the benefits would be much lesser. After devouring hundreds of pieces of Elder Yu's heaven Goyu, Ning Fan actually only increased the number of his heaven Goyu to 1022 pieces. Sure enough, devouring was just a minor Dao. Cultivation was the true foundation. In order to quickly increase the number of heaven Goyu, one still had to cultivate diligently through the correct cultivation method. Elder Yu was the fourth strongest expert of the Heavenly Cluster Fish clan. His death naturally could not be concealed. Ning Fan also did not plan to conceal Elder Yu's death. He turned back into his fish form and removed the great force seal around the courtyard of elders. As soon as he swam out of the courtyard, he saw countless large fishes outside the courtyard. All of them were the experts of the Heavenly Cluster Fish clan who had sensed Elder Yu's death and rushed to this place. Among them, there were even 3 immortal venerables of the Heavenly Cluster Fish clan. In the Heavenly Cluster Fish clan, immortal venerables of the Heavenly Cluster Fish clan were as rare as phoenix feathers and Qilin horns. Their status was extremely high. For 3 immortal venerables to come out at the same time, there must have been a huge change in the clan. Seeing Ning Fan walk out of the courtyard of elders alive, a large white fish among the 3 immortal venerables asked in a deep voice. "Why did you kill the dignified Elder Yu? Do you know that this is a serious crime in the clan?" Even though the Heavenly Cluster Fish clan did not forbid members of the clan from killing each other, those who offend their superiors still had to be severely punished. Ning Fan was too lazy to talk nonsense with this immortal venerables. He already knew that killing Elder Yu would cause some trouble. But so what? What serious crimes? Could they restrain him? Would he obediently accept the punishment from these immortal venerables of the Heavenly Cluster Fish clan? It would be great if they knew what was good for them. Otherwise, he did not mind letting these 3 immortal venerables of the Heavenly Cluster Fish clan follow in Elder Yu's footsteps and die together. When the time comes, he would kill all the leaders of the Heavenly Cluster Fish clan. Then, he could seize the opportunity to seize a high position and become the master of the Heavenly Cluster Fish clan. This is not a bad idea. If he becomes the leader of the Heavenly Cluster Fish clan, it would certainly be much more convenient for him to do things in this place. It would also be beneficial for him to plot to obtain the 800 million yen heavy wood in this place. Of course, the 3 immortal venerables of the Heavenly Cluster Fish clan did not know that Ning Fan, whom they were only slightly afraid of, was now filled with killing intent towards them. Another red immortal venerables of the Heavenly Cluster Fish clan said, "This young man can kill Elder Yu. Even though he is not as good as us, he is still a talent. If we kill him directly according to the rules of the clan, it will be a waste to pay with his life. Brothers, have you forgotten that we have a better way to punish this kid?" Another black immortal venerable said. It is indeed a waste to kill him directly. However, this young man is too ferocious. Even you and I will feel fearful when we see him. If we let him live, he will always be a disaster. When he becomes stronger, won't he have the guts to attack us the next day? How about this? Lock him up in the underground mine and let him receive the wood dragon punishment for 100,000 years. What do you think? Good. 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 This is a great idea. The wood dragon punishment can perfectly strip away a person's bloodline, cultivation base and abilities. When we kill the sinner, it will also bring us some benefits. However, it will take too long. Forget it. It's just 100,000 years. We can afford to wait. When the time comes, this young man's bloodline and the heavenly Goyu will all belong to us. The 3 of us will have to share these benefits equally. The 3 immortal venerables plotted against Ning Fan as if there was no one else around them. They were not afraid that Ning Fan would be resentful after hearing their plan. As soon as the countless fishes behind the 3 immortal venerables heard that Ning Fan was going to be locked up in the underground mine to receive the wood dragon punishment, all of them burst into laughter. They were laughing at Ning Fan's sad fate. Those who received the wood dragon punishment had never come back alive. They would die without a doubt. Moreover, their cultivation base and abilities would be stripped away for others to devour after they die. Their laughter spread across Goyu City. Those who did not know what was going on might think that something joyous had happened in the city. Ning Fan was slightly stunned. Did I hear it wrongly? These 3 foolish immortal venerables of the heavenly cluster fish clan are planning to lock me up in the Een Heavy Wood Mine under Goyu City? Wait a minute, could this be a great opportunity to obtain the underground gloomy heavy wood? I can openly approach the ore vein. If that's the case, I need to think about it carefully. Is it more appropriate to kill the 3 immortal venerables of the heavenly cluster fish clan and seize their power? Or to accept the punishment obediently? 4926, do you have any objections to our decision to sentence you to receive the wood dragon punishment? No. No. Haha. It seems like this young man still doesn't know how terrifying the wood dragon punishment is. He actually has no objections. Good. This is really great. Then, you can just obediently be locked up in the underground mine by us. Someone, open the underground entrance and lock this young man up in the prison of the wood dragon mine. Understood. One could wear out iron shoes in fruitless searching only to find it by chance without even looking for it. The reason why Ning Fan did not make a move on the Een Heavy Wood in this place was because the Een Heavy Wood mine was blocked by the restriction formation set up by the Realm River Quasi-Saint. The activation of the restriction formation would not obey anyone's order. It would only obey the order of the Quasi-Saint who placed the restriction formation. Even the immortal venerables of the heavenly cluster fish clan did not have the right to open the restriction formation and enter the underground mine at will. If Ning Fan uses brute force to break the restriction formation, the Realm River Quasi-Saint who placed the restriction formation would know immediately. At that time, if a powerful enemy of the Realm River Quasi-Saint was attracted because of this matter, the consequences would be unimaginable. However, there was no need to worry about that now. The Heavenly Cluster Fish clan actually took the initiative to burn incense and pray and obtained the permission of the Realm River Quasi-Saint to open the entrance of the restriction formation. After that, Ning Fan was locked up in the underground alone. There was not even a single guard around him. What a joke! Which cultivator of the Heavenly Cluster Fish clan would be willing to die with Ning Fan underground? Naturally, no one came to guard Ning Fan. No one thought that Ning Fan could break the restriction formation of the Realm River Quasi-Saint and escape. Then, he could only die obediently under the Wood Dragon punishment. However, no one knew that Ning Fan being locked up underground was exactly what he wanted. Now, he could make a move on the gloomy wood in the ground without anyone noticing. Then, what should he do next to take away the 800 million Een heavy wood in this place without being noticed by the Realm River Quasi-Saint? You're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.